just listen.
There's no way anybody was working harder than I was to become a champion, and I lost that belt, and that was a mental loss.
I was going to ask you about the mental side. So you said Henny. The question was going to be if you've done anything formally with someone.
Formally, no. I haven't. Like I said, sports psychology in South Africa is not something that is very common. It's not something. Once that's when I really started to go into the psychology part of the game. Is my one teammate, he was a champion and he was doing great, and then he just went on a losing streak, like 3 fights in a row after winning 10 fights in a row, and he was losing fights that he wasn't supposed to, and we couldn't understand it. He was like, I mean, whenever he trains, he's an animal. He just kills everybody in the gym, and once he went out there, it was like it wasn't even the same person that went out there and fought. And I mean, that's something you can blame on experience, all that stuff, and it wasn't one of that. His age was perfect to be in the prime of his career. He had all the makings. I mean, he had so many fights. He was on a 10-fight winning streak, so he was used to the winning streak. And it wasn't like he was getting involved in like, you know, not living a clean life, not living an athlete's life because of all the wins, all that, the fame, any of that. It wasn't that at all. It was. I mean, he was training harder than anyone. He was always just, whenever we were in the gym, everybody was scared of him. He was just killing guys in the gym. But once the fight came in, it's almost like he couldn't get out of the blocks. And we didn't understand it until he saw a psychologist, sports psychologist, and he came back with a few interesting points, and his performance just started going up and up. And it was almost like, it looked like he found a new love for the sport, where the more he lost, the more he started hating the sport. Not because of the sport, he was hating himself for not performing, and he couldn't understand what was happening. We couldn't understand because we couldn't really work any harder. We couldn't train harder. We were doing everything and more. And you know, that's like, it's almost like training with a handbrake on if your mental side is not right. You can have the best training in the world. You can be fit. You can be stronger. You can be anything. If your mental state's not right, I believe in MMA mental side of things, 70% of your fights won in the mind. And so I started talking to him about it, and he started to explain a few things, and I got very interested, and I started doing my own studies about it, and that's how I came to meet Henny. Well, we've met a long time before that. That's when we started talking about it, and he said, well, this is what he's doing, and we started working together, and he started to give me books to read, and I started reading books, and it's just the whole thing. It was like a snowball. And then after reading all these books, hearing all these professional opinions, reading stories about massive Michael Jordans, Ernie Els, Tiger Woods, all those people that once went through a slump, and then I just read all these things about people, exceptional people. And you would think these people are just so talented. These people they must have worked so hard, and they do. Make no mistake, the physical attributes to working hard. And I mean, everybody works hard. If you're a professional sports person, you work hard. You don't get there with just talent. Being a professional, somebody that's known, somebody that you talk about, not just somebody that's competing. And then you wonder what sets apart the greats from the normal people. Is it physicality? No, it can't be. If you look at golf, do you really think Tiger Woods is so much he's hit so many more balls than anybody else that's a professional? I don't think so.
No.
I think everybody, I mean, he sets the pace. People, I mean, you'll get a young, hungry guy that's going to be like, I'm going to do more than he does.
Yes.
And that's definitely something that's happening right now. There's people that are training harder than he is. There's people training harder than Roger Federer, Djokovic. There are people like giving more than they are physically. But where is that change? What makes them great, and what separates them from the rest? If you think about it, it can't just be the physical part. It can't be, because how much harder can they really work? And without burning themselves out. And then I came to realize, like, when I lost my first fight, there's no way anybody was working harder than I was to become a champion, and I lost that belt, and that was a mental lost.
Who was that again? Sorry.
Gareth Soldier Boy McLaren. That was my first. I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
I've had 30 plus K1 fights, a world title in K1, and I've never lost a fight in my life before that. And I went on I was 4-0 as a professional. I was still young. I was just turned 20. He was 30, and he had quite a few more fights, but that didn't bother me. I was feeling on top of the world. I was feeling unstoppable, and I was just thinking, I'll outwork anybody that ever steps into a gym. Anybody that steps into the cage with me, I know I work harder. I just train myself to the bone every day. I lost that fight because of overtraining. I believe a big reason is I gassed out because I was overtraining. It wasn't a lack of work, it was too much work, and I put so much pressure on myself. I was starting to not enjoy the fact that I was fighting anymore. I was fighting to win. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I was just fighting to win. And that's all that started making sense once I started to get into this mental side of the sport. And I mean, where I'm at now, right now my record is 14-2, and I believe most of my opponents have been beaten way before we stepped into that cage because of the mental aspect. Most people, especially locally, think when you tell about the mental side of the sport, they're like, oh yeah, you just have to be able to be tough and tough it out. And that is true. Like that is, without that, you will never be a fighter. If you don't have that toughness, you will never be a fighter, that mental toughness. But it goes so much further than that for me. And I mean, I'm not a professional at it at all, but I do find it very fascinating, and I do spend most of my time. Training is one aspect of it. I do spend 50% of my time training mentally, just like I do physically. And that mental part is not just being tough. Being tough mentally, everybody can do that. If I choke you, you can be as tough as you want. You're going to pass out. That's not what it's about. It's about preparing your mind not to get in the situation. Preparing your mind to be able to train one thing, once you get into the cage, to do exactly that thing. And not get flabbergasted by all the people, not getting too excited, not letting adrenaline and cortisol and everything take over your mind, and not, because as soon as you start to stress and you start breathing fast, everything that's going to happen to you, whether you have 100 professional fights or whether it's your first fight. People are always like, you don't look stressed at all, and I'm like, I'm dying inside. The stress is killing me inside. But there's a way to manage that stress. As humans, we have the fight or flight response regardless. Whenever there's a situation that you are not comfortable with, like stepping outside in front of millions of people and fighting another guy and potentially dying or potentially hurting yourself or someone else, or whatever is at stake for you. For me, the biggest thing at stake is being embarrassed in front of millions of people.
The shameful parts of it.
And if you can think, like, no matter who you are, no matter how many fights, you are scared when you go out there. And everybody's going to feel the same way. It's all about how we react to it. How you react to that pressure. I love that feeling. I realized quickly in my career that I'm not chasing that feeling of the victory. That's great. That's a great feeling. But then I started realizing, I think I like the feeling of the intensity before the fight. Every time before I walk out, I'm like, I am hating this because I'm so stressed out. I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Why don't I just get a normal job like a normal person? What am I doing? And as soon as the curtain opens and I walk out there, I just love it all over again. There's just that small brief moment where you start doubting, did I do enough? And that's going to be there. That's that little voice where you have to make the choice. Well, how am I going to deal with this? You did work hard enough. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And you just have to trust in your own work. You know deep down inside, did you do the work? Didn't you do the work? But the mental part of it is, as soon as you start cramping up, as soon as you start breathing fast and thinking about, oh, what am I going to do now? The blood flow to your brain is less. I mean, I've read this. Then it makes so much sense. If you start breathing, the blood flow goes back to normal. Your muscles start tensing up. Your reaction is going to be slower. You're going to be in a red mind space. Everything's going to be slower. You're going to be using your conscious mind when you're fighting, and you can't be having that. You can't see a punch, look at it, see, I have to do this block, then think of a counter. There's no time for that. Everything has to happen. It has to be in your subconscious mind. You have to, and the only way you can do that is by being relaxed. And that's when your muscle memory comes in. If you are too intense, if you're tensing and you're thinking about the moment you are in right now, you're just thinking about how stressful this moment is. That's what you're thinking, and you're just reacting on things that are happening. You don't want to react on things that are happening right now. You just want to react. You want to react out of nature. And that's, you just want to react on all the stuff you've been doing. Like when I fight, whenever I block a punch, I don't see the punch coming and I block it. My body just does it because your brain is so used to defending that punch. You see it in training all the time. And everybody has that. Everybody can do that. But once you start stressing, once you start being too tense and you're like, oh, I have to see, this guy's going to punch me, he's going to punch me, he's going to punch you. You are slowing down your reaction time with a half a second, and that's half a second that you don't have in a fight.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe my stress level, my adrenaline used to be so intense. I would be so fit going out in the fight. 1 minute in, I'm dead tired. I'm like, I can't even fight. I'm gassed, and it's 1 minute into the fight. And the biggest reason was I got so excited and I got so almost, I wouldn't say scared, but anxious. I'm like, oh, I have to win this fight. I have to win this fight. I have to do this. I have to do this. Oh, don't do this. Don't. Look, the whole situation was just so overwhelming that I couldn't perform at 50% of my ability. I still won fights, but I didn't perform nearly as well I could. And even now I'm starting to get, when I started to prepare myself mentally, I started to perform on a level where people in my, the stuff that I train, nothing is new to me when I step in there. Nothing is, I don't do anything that surprises me.
Yeah.
Everything happens, and I've done it in training. I've seen it before. And yeah, the butterflies, the excitement, that's always going to be there. It's just how you channel it. And that's mostly what Henny and I have been working on. Is just to make sure that my focus stays in the right direction. I'm a pretty self-motivated guy. Some people need motivation. Some people need no motivation. Some people need to be screamed at. Some people need to be told, you need to train, you need to train. Some people need that. Even some of the greatest people in the world need that. And then you have other people like myself. I don't need that. I don't need you to tell me to train. You just give me my program and I'll do what I have to.
Yeah.
You as a coach, you have to tell me, do this, I'll do it. You don't have to ask me twice. And it's not, it doesn't make me better than anybody. It doesn't make me better than a guy that needs to be told. I'm just different. Some people, it doesn't say, if you don't want to do it on your own, if you need to be asked a few times to do something and you try to cheat every now and then, yeah, you are cheating or something, but that's just a different personality. Some people are going to do it that way and still be great.
Yeah.
It's just the mental side of things. If you don't know how to deal with, we have a natural response as humans to stay away from danger.
Yeah.
And going out and fighting somebody, that's dangerous. And your body is responding accordingly to save you. And you have to be able mentally to override that natural instinct you have, and just be able to say, okay, cool, I'm in this situation, handle it calm, and stick to what you know.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to speak to you specifically is because in any sport, there's a certain level of anxiety that's driven from fear of losing or fear of looking bad. All of those things exist in fighting, but there's an extra one, which is the danger that this guy is actually trying to kill you. And if you don't do something about it, he will knock you out or choke you till you sleep. So that extra anxiety is something that very few people know how to handle, because very few people have been in life-threatening situations. You live in that moment. You work towards trying to be in those moments. And you've got to be a little bit crazy.
Absolutely. Like they always say, greatness and craziness is next door neighbors, right?
Yeah.
And that is very interesting. Like that is true. Like I'm never trying to. I love sports, so any sport, anybody. Like if you look at my sporting heroes, Wade van Niekerk, one of them, Chad Leclerc, one of them, Mike Tyson, one of them, Valentino Rossi, one of them, Michael Schumacher, one of them, and those are people in 5 different sports.
Yeah,
it's regardless of sport. I love any sort of sports. I think every sport has some uniqueness to it, and then a lot of sports has, like soccer and rugby, completely different sports, but as far as the mental side of things go, basically exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
As far as teamwork goes, exactly the same thing. As far as individualism goes in those sports, exactly the same thing. But in fighting, there's not quite anything like it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are, sure, you can say I'm a BMX rider, I'm a motocross rider, I do this on my own, it's cool, but there's nobody punching you in the face.
Yes.
And it's you competing against a few other people. There's so many variables.
Yeah.
So many things. Your bike can break down. You can fall. It's one of those things. This race you didn't ride. Nobody's knocking you out. It's not you versus somebody else. There can be only one winner.
Yeah.
Only one. There's 2 guys. You go into that. That's one thing that passes my thoughts always. I go in there and I'm like, well, he's feeling the same way I'm feeling right now. Like, it always looks like your opponent's not stressing at all. It always looks like, I'm like, why is he looking so calm? But people are always thinking I'm looking so calm, but inside I'm like, I'm pretty anxious.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking, why is he looking so calm? What is he hiding? He's looking so calm.
Yeah.
But he's obviously in the exact same battle with himself than I am.
Yeah.
You fighting yourself the whole time, going out there, you're like, I'm gonna win. Oh no, I have to win. No, you don't have to. You're gonna win, and you're stuck in between trying to tell yourself that you're definitely gonna win and not trying to be arrogant about it.
Yeah.
You're not trying to be too full of yourself, but you're trying to convince yourself that you're winning. And that's a battle you're gonna have with yourself every single time you go out. Especially in sports like that's not a team sport, like fighting and competing against one-on-one against someone else. It's always going to be, I believe the mental space between fighting and tennis is a lot closer than the mental space between fighting and rugby.
Yeah.
And that's
you can hide in rugby, can't you? You can.
That's exactly it. That's when I was getting at is when I used to play rugby. I played rugby provincially. I wanted to follow rugby as a career, and I realized even if on some days I was just not feeling it on a rugby field. I'll be like, I mean, I had a good game, but I had an average game for myself. And even my dad would say, oh, you had a pretty average game today. But nobody would mention that. Nobody would even, my stock as a rugby player won't go down because there's a whole team. If the team won, everybody's happy. If the team lost, everybody's sad. That's it. And you can blame this guy knocked the ball, this guy did this guy did that. Because there's 15 guys behind. There's a whole team that has to work as one, but every now and again, like, there's so many things, there's so many variables, so many people you can blame.
Yes.
In fighting, it's all you.
Yeah.
You're going out there, even though it's a team sport, without my team, I wouldn't be anything as a fighter. But once that door closes, it's only me inside there. They can only shout instructions. It's up to me. What am I going to do with those instructions? They've taught me, they've gotten me ready to get to that moment. But once that door closes and the rest is fight, it's me versus that guy.
Yes.
And nobody else to blame, no matter what happens, whether it's an injury in the fight, regardless of what happens, it's all on you.
Yes.
The responsibility is solely on you to perform. The outcome is 100% dependent on you. And that's the big thing that I believe fighting makes fighting one of those things where no matter how skillful you are, you can still lose.
Yeah.
I can be 10 times the fighter you are in skill level, but you can still knock me out.
Yes.
I can be 10 times stronger than you are, but you can still beat me in a fight.
Yes.
And I think it's so primal. It's even though the humanity has come such a long way and we're almost evolving into people where violence is not the answer to anything. And that is the correct way. That's why we're moving forward as a human race. But there's something about the primal instinct of any human, regardless of how far you've come, how rich you are, how poor you are, in what social status you are, regardless. There's something that in the human mind that when two people fight, your heart starts racing.
Yes.
Whether you're afraid, whether you're excited, whether it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It gets your heart racing, it gets your adrenaline going, and that's why people want to watch fights always.
It speaks to the reptilian part of our brain, doesn't it? The primal instinct of defending yourself, of there's a threat. And then there's also that part about winning in dominance, which is definitely part of the human brain.
You can go around and say nature isn't the real thing, like it doesn't play any role. That it definitely does, like you said there. It's like whenever I see two people fight, the first thing I think is, I wonder if I could beat that guy.
Oh, really?
That's the first thing I think.
Yeah.
Whenever I see two people fight, the winner, I look at it and I'm like, I wonder if I was in that fight, how I would do.
Yeah.
And
when I watch UFC, I don't think that I know I'll beat both of them. So
that's the right mindset right there.
No, I'm joking.
And but like you said, that primal mind, that primal part of our brain, there's no way around it. I believe there's no way around it. Nobody has ever walked past the fight and went like, huh, and just kept on walking. That never ever happens. Whenever there's a fight, people are looking like, oh. When there's a rugby game, look at it. If you look at it like this, there's a rugby game on TV. Everybody watching the game. The game's going. People are talking. People are having a beer. People are laughing, and it's almost like the the rugby is playing, not in the background, but the rugby is on, but there's nothing really happening right now. Soccer, same thing.
Yes.
Like there's nothing going to happen right now. There's a scrum happening, whatever. Everybody's talking. Nobody's giving 100% attention to the game.
Yeah.
But everybody's is conscious of the game. It's going, but there's nothing really happening now. And two guys would grab each other, and the fight would start on the rugby field.
Yeah.
Everybody in the room, everybody in that stadium, everybody immediately fixed on that TV.
Yeah.
And watching, what's going to happen now?
Exactly.
And then in rugby, today's rugby, there's probably not going to happen anything.
Yes.
Nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to punch anybody because people won't do it in rugby right now, because you'll get suspended for a very long time. But the first thing when that happens, everybody's like, they're going to hit each other. Let's see what's happening. That's just that primal. That's the human instinct, because that's just how it works.
Yeah.
I guess that's that part in our brain that we still haven't evolved out of, and I really hope we don't do it anytime soon, because
well, it's growing, isn't it?
It's growing.
We're going more that way.
People are loving it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, people talk to me a lot about that, and people are like, so there's one term I hate, is people calling me a cage fighter. I hate it so much, because if you look at me on the street, nobody would say, this guy, he looks like a fighter. I don't look like a fighter. I look like a normal guy.
Yeah.
And I am not a fighter. That's not my career. I'm not a fighter. I'm an athlete.
Okay.
Just like somebody is an athlete in swimming, just like somebody's an athlete on the track and field, and I'm an athlete. I devote my whole life to the sport. I don't try to be the meanest guy in the room ever.
Yeah.
That's not what I do. I don't look mean. I don't try and intimidate people when I go on the street. That's what a fighter does.
Yes.
People that are fighters, they go out and they fight people. I don't fight people.
Yeah.
I compete against world-class athletes for a prize and to show that I'm the best athlete in the world in my sport. Just like Wade van Niekerk is an athlete. He's running against the best athletes in the world to get the gold. And that's exactly how it works in fighting. Yeah. Fighting is just the kind of sport it is. It's a bit controversial, if you will, but it depends on how you're looking at it.
Yeah.
If you know fighting, you don't see it as a brutal sport, and you don't see it as a brutal. It's not. You can't even compare it to gladiators.
Yeah.
Like even that comparison, yes, it is a modern day gladiator. That is what it is, but it's not even comparable. Nobody's dying. There's the rules in fighting is so it's so perfectly. I mean, I'll say, as far as massive injuries go, there's a whole lot of more injuries in rugby than there is in fighting.
Yeah.
And it's so controlled, the environment. And the big thing for me is people getting educated on it. People getting educated, and that's what's happening right now. People are watching fights, and people aren't seeing it as a two brutal, badass dudes just, killing each other. That's not what it is at all. Like, I don't want to kill my opponent. I will, but I don't want to. That's not my... When I go out there, I don't have killing on my mind. I don't have war on my mind. I don't want to hurt this guy on my mind. What I have in my mind is I want to do whatever I have to get my hand raised tonight. And I'm willing to do whatever I have to. And it's not about, like, I don't even have death on my mind. I don't have hurting anybody on my mind ever when I fight. Yeah. It's not on my mind ever. There's not one bit of me that wants to hurt my opponent.
Yeah.
The only thing I want to do is whatever I have to beat him.
Yeah.
And if hurting him is how I'm going to beat him tonight, that's it. If just choking him is how I'll beat him, that's how I'll do it. If this guy just doesn't want to go down, I'll hurt him. And if he's too tough for his own good, I will do whatever is necessary. But it's never my intention to go out there and hurt somebody. And that's one thing people, I believe, the way they think about fighting is, they think a fighter's mind, he wants to hurt people. He likes to hurt people.
Yeah.
It's not my...
He's a psychopath or
He's
something.
a psychopath.
Yeah.
I'm a psychopath when it comes to my performance, yes. But I'm not a psychopath that wants to see anybody get hurt. That's not what I like. I don't like the part where I hurt another guy. I like the part where I beat another guy.
Yes.
On a one-on-one combat, it's me against you and I just beat you. I love that part. I don't want to hurt anyone. It's not the hurt that I like. It's the accomplishment of winning.
Yes.
That's what I'm after.
And sometimes when you have to win a fight in a certain way, I don't want to speak too much about other guys, but let's use Don Madge's second UFC fight as an example. He had to do it in a specific way, and people moaned how boring the fight was. But for him, it's not about being boring. It's about being strategic.
That's it.
Do you feel that pressure sometimes from the crowd who always want to see a big knockout or something?
I put that pressure on myself, I believe.
Right.
And I've never went to a decision once in my life. All my fights were finishes. And I believe that's part of the persona that I have. That's part of who I am, and that's part of what makes me a great fighter is leaving it in the judges' hands is for me bringing the sport. I'm trying to get the right wording. It's kind of, it's not fair. And I know it has to happen, but in my opinion, especially in title fights, just hear me out. We talked about this the other day, is I believe when I'm a champion and you're fighting me for my belt and we end up going to a decision, that is not fair. You haven't beaten the champion. In somebody's opinion, you beat the champion, and that's the judge's opinion. You did beat the champion. But let's say we said, okay, there's 5-minute rounds or 4 5-minute rounds, and the last round doesn't have a time limit. Somebody has to give up. Somebody has to get finished. And you don't have to knock somebody out or you have to choke somebody. Somebody can just be too exhausted and said, okay, no more.
Yeah.
And that is how I believe you get a real champion.
Would you do it that way? Would you say
that is how I would prefer it, yes.
Yeah.
If I could change a rule, that would be it.
Yeah.
No time limit for title fights if it goes to decision. Because, I mean, that comes down to, for me, that's where your mentality is really coming in. That's where it gets interesting to an extent where if you're in the 5th round, you are so tired, you know you're winning this fight, but you really want to give up. And you know there's 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's 2 minutes. I can go for 2 more minutes. And that's a lot easier said than done. Believe me, 2 minutes feels like an eternity when you're in there. But imagine you didn't have that cushion of knowing the fight's going to be over in 2 minutes. You had to know that I have to still beat this guy. I know I'm ahead on points.
Yeah.
That's not what's fighting about. It's not rugby. It's not basketball. It's not a points game. It's a me versus you, and I have to beat you game.
Yes.
And that's why I would love for that to be a rule. To say, listen, especially at championship fights, because losing your belt on a split decision makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's actually disappointing
because
for everyone
it's one
involved.
guy's opinion. It's a small margin. One guy's opinion that takes away your title and gives it to another guy. I'm not saying people are biased or anything. I'm just saying it can be. It's human error. It can be sometimes the right call, sometimes the wrong call. But, I mean, it's not fair in my opinion. I would much rather have me winning 5 rounds, 4 out of the 5 rounds. In the last round, I just couldn't keep up anymore. I didn't want it bad enough, and I give up. Imagine the kind of mental fight you're having then. Because then it comes down to more than the physical fitness. It comes down to more than both are going to be tired, both are going to be exhausted, both are going to be hurt, and then it's going to come down to the real who wants this more.
Yeah, and you can't go and hide by wrestling or kicking and running away.
You can't do it. How long can you do this?
Yeah,
you're going to have to finish this fight in some way. You have to make this guy give up, or you're going to have to give up.
Yeah,
and I believe that's where. True character. That will make for interesting fights. But I guess that's really how I feel about fighting. It's my mental state when I fight is whatever happens in there happens.
Yeah.
Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, and the only thing I do know is you don't know if you're gonna win or lose. You don't know it. I'm always pretty certain I'm gonna win this fight because I did everything that I possibly can to win this fight. But you never know. I mean, this guy can hit you and you're knocked out. It's regardless of how tough you are mentally, regardless of how fit you are, regardless of how strong you are. This guy catches you in the right moment, right there. You get knocked out. You get knocked out. There's nothing you can do about it. It's out of your hands, and that can always happen. That is true. But the part of thinking about it, you shouldn't be thinking about it. I'm like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. There's nothing I can do about it. But what I can do is go out there and perform the way I know I can.
Yeah.
And not be bothered by that. Because if you think like that when you're walking out, you're always the whole time you're gonna be hesitant. You're gonna be like, oh well, what if he knocks me out now? Maybe if I could just survive the first round, it won't be that bad. No ways. From the first shot, this could happen in the first second of the fight. It can happen in the last second of the fight. And right in between there, you have a choice to make. Listen, am I gonna wait for this, or am I gonna, do what I do?
Yeah.
And that guy's thinking exactly the same thing. Because whenever some fight nights, I'm like, when I get there, I'm just like, I'm feeling weird. I'm like, I just wish it can take a bit longer. And then the closer it gets to your fight, the last fight before your fight, and I'm like, I hope something happens. It just gets postponed a little bit more. And I'm like, what am I waiting for?
Yeah.
Like, you want more time to pass for what? Because because you're anxious. You are like, I have to go now. Until this day, I felt like that in my first fight, and I feel like this right now when I'm defending my titles. That's exactly how I always feel. And the way I comfort myself, and I'm like, whenever my opponent walked out or anything, or they called me, my music starts playing, the thought that goes through my head is like, well, you're here now. This is gonna happen.
Let's go.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
That guy's already in a cage, or listen, your music already playing. There's no turning back now. You are already here. This already happened. If you wanted to cancel this, you could have done it like maybe 10 minutes ago. Sure, that was still a possibility. Right now, it's over.
Yeah.
Like you're walking out right now. So what you can do, you have one or two options. You can go out there and be scared, like, because you feel scared. You feel vulnerable when you're standing right there just before you walk out, because you're like, and I believe that's the time where every single guy will be the most humble guy in the world.
Yeah.
Just before he walks out to a fight. Well, that's when I feel my ego disappear just for a few seconds, because I don't feel confident. I don't feel not confident. I just feel terrified. I just feel so vulnerable. It feels like there's a pack of lions around me and I'm alone, and I'm just like, ooh, just for that brief moment, and I breathe, and I'm like, once I make that switch from, listen, this is going to happen right now, whether you handle it like a little gazelle or a lion, that's your choice.
Yeah.
So me and this guy are going to get in that ring right now. What I can do to make this a lot easier on myself, because I know I'm not scared of getting hurt ever. That's never, ever, ever the problem. That's never, ever going through my mind, this guy, I might get hurt tonight. That's never, ever crossed my mind. What I think is, I might lose tonight. I might disappoint every single fan here. I might disappoint my whole family sitting here. I might disappoint myself, my coaches, everybody. All this hard work for what? If I lose this fight, and then I'm like, well, it's a 50-50 chance of that every time you step in there. Anything can happen. And I'm like, I can either go out there and once this guy starts hitting me, just go down and, just take the cheek out, to give him my neck, let him submit me. It's an easy way out. It's not going to hurt. It's okay. It's just do that and then distress. And I'm like, no, that makes no sense, because that's why I'm stressing, because I don't want that to happen. And then I'm like, well, you have the other choice of going out there and giving it your best and just saying, fuck it, let's, heads down, give it your best, go and do what you do. And that's usually when I'm like, and it's almost like a ritual, that I know my song, I know when it plays, and when that thought comes in my head, and when that curtain opens and I walk out there, it's like, well, I've made my choice.
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this all I've got. I'm going to give this guy if I'm losing here tonight, I'm not going out there. I'm going out on my shield. If I'm losing here tonight, I promise you it's not going to be a boring fight. I promise you it won't be without a whole lot of trying. I always like to use it like a win or die trying. And for me, that's my mindset every single time. If I lose, I lose. And I realized that after my first loss. That first loss was the best thing to ever happen to my career. I became double the fighter after that. Yeah. Because that's when I realized it's not about the win. It's about performing. It's about doing what I love, and it's about going out there and really, I always pray before I go out. I'm a Christian, so when I pray, I never pray for a win. I never pray, please let me win tonight. I want to win, because that's unfair, because he wants to win as well. Yeah. So that's not fair. What I ask for mostly is, let me get out what I've put in. Number one. And number two is, let me walk out of the cage satisfied with my attempt, regardless win or lose. I don't want, and that's coming to the point that you were actually trying to make about Don and the strategy. If he was satisfied with that performance, that's on him. Great. I wouldn't be satisfied with that performance.
Okay.
I wouldn't, regardless of winning or losing. And he won the fight. I was screaming with the rest of South Africa. I'm so happy for him. I mean, he got 2 wins in a row in the UFC. And, I mean, I'm being very critical right now. He won a fight. Like, that is amazing. He did an amazing thing to win that fight. His first fight was amazing. And he was strategic in his approach. But if you are not happy with your performance, that's where it becomes tricky. You're stuck between, I want to make sure I win this fight, or do I want to satisfy my need to, or do I want to satisfy myself and satisfy, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I love winning, or am I doing this because I love fighting? And that's a question you have to answer for yourself, because if you like winning, cool, you can keep on winning. But how satisfying would that be? I'm hitting these pads every single day, going through hell and trying and putting on submissions and trying to finish guys the whole day, and I'm holding a guy down. Yeah, and I've never practiced that. I don't know one session where my coach is like, just hold him down. And for me, yeah, sure, the opponent's gonna make the fight that way. That can happen. But for me, I wouldn't be satisfied with a performance like that.
Yeah. But that's a personal thing, though.
That's a personal thing. It might. I mean, for everybody, it's different. That's what I'm saying. Is if you as a person are happy to fight like that and you're happy to get the win, great. For me, it's not good enough. Yeah. I mean, I've lost fights because of that. Because I wasn't willing to do that. I've lost a fight because I wasn't willing to win this fight in that way. I wasn't willing to do that. And I guess it's a like you said, it's a more of a personal battle with yourself. But I believe that's the different mindsets you have in this game. You have a guy that's like, whenever it gets tough, he's like, well, I'm either going down swinging, or I'm winning this fight with a knockout or a finish. And then you get a guy that's like, oh, the tension is high. This is a high stakes. I'm playing it safe. And that's what you get. You're getting a guy that's playing it safe and a guy that doesn't. Yeah. And that's two different people. And you get in the fight world all the time. You have guys with massive records, but unfortunately, they don't sell fights. And right now with Don, the cool thing is, like, that's not what I'm saying at all, that he is a boring fighter at all. I love his way he fights. He's a brilliant fighter. And if you look at his first fight and you look at his second fight, completely different fights. And you can't say the opponents were different, because in the first fight, he didn't give his opponent any chance to show that he had anything. He was just on him. He went for it from the word get-go. Yeah. He went for it. And in the second fight, you could see from the beginning, yes, he said he hurt his hand, and all that is fair, but he never went for it, not even once. Not once did he go and say, listen, I'm here, this is my cage, this is what, and that's something you have to establish very quickly in a fight. I always say, the first 15 seconds, you'll always see me going, whoa, because even to this day, no matter how many fights I've had, that first 15 seconds, you're always like, how hard does this guy hit? How fast is he? You don't know that until you've touched. The ref says fight, there's tension. After the first shot, no more tension. Yes. Immediately I forget about it. And it's just purely, I'm fighting on what I know, and everything's happening like it's that flow state that you get in. Yes. Everything's happening just like that. Like before you see it, the round's over and you're like, whew, what just happened? Yeah. You don't even know what just happened. Your body just went into it. You don't even stress about it anymore. You don't, like, as soon as the ref says fight, and the first time you have contact with your opponent, there's no more stress. Yeah. Everything's gone. It's just fight. Yeah. Then you fight. And the thing is, I try to establish that immediately. That's why my fights are always like, I've never had a fight where in the beginning it was a little bit stagnant. Never, ever. When that ref says fight, I make sure to make contact immediately, because firstly for myself, this tension goes away. Yes. It's only concentration. Then for my opponent, I know the first 15 seconds for any fighter, you don't know how hard does this guy hit, how fast is he, what is he good, like how good is he really, because you've seen this guy knock out somebody maybe, and you're like, how hard does he really punch? And the only way you're going to find out is by him punching you. Yeah. And that's when, and he's thinking the same thing about you. He's definitely thinking the same thing. He's like, I wonder how this fight's going to go down. I wonder how tough this guy is. I wonder if he's going to shoot. I wonder what's he's going to, in that first few seconds, it's so, like, there's so many things he can do. You don't know what this guy can do. And I'm just like, well, do something. Yeah. I'll just go in and put the pressure on from the first 15 seconds, and then I'll back down. I'll be back down. I'll be And then I'll start, assessing the situation and fighting and thinking, okay, cool, I see he's fighting like this, I see she's doing it. But at first 15 seconds, when he's unsure and you are unsure, that's when I'm like, well, both of us are unsure. I'm just going to put it on him, because a lot of guys fall under that pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of guys are like, holy shit, this guy doesn't have any fear. This guy, like, while he's still trying to figure you out, you're just on him. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And that happens so often. And guys are like, wow. And then they never get out of it. Like, once you put that pressure on, that first 15 seconds, he never gets his gears together. He never gets his mind together to say, okay, cool. He's just hit me. This is how fast he is. Just that peace of mind almost of, like, listen, he's throwing, I'm throwing. He's just like, oh, this guy's on me the whole time. I'm defending. And before you know it, that's why a lot of fights end within the first minute, because once I put on the pressure, and you can see if a guy's handling the pressure and he's just like, okay, cool, covering up and, getting back to his base. But then you can also see it when you hit a guy the first time immediately, or you kick him or whatever, and you can see, oh, this guy is rattled right now.
Yeah.
Not because he's injured, not because you hurt him with a shot, just because he got he didn't expect that.
Yeah.
He was like, well, I thought we were going to feel each other out a little, and you just went in, bang. And a lot of people don't recover they don't recover from that. If they can make it through the round, great.
Yeah.
But that first round, you can really put the pressure on, and if you have it on, keep it on. So that's an interesting side of it, is how the pressure, the mental part, and like I said, that's where the mental part plays such a big role.
Because that's all that is. That's not a technical thing. That's just a mental one up.
100, yeah. I'm one up mentally, and I get confidence more. I get a confidence boost from that, because I see you shy down from me. I see I'm the most dominant guy in this cage right now.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. The primal, like we said earlier, is I have to establish my dominance in that cage. And if I can make you feel inferior, I'm winning that fight by a long shot.
Yeah.
Even if it's just because, not strength-wise. If you can get your opponent to think he's more tired than you are, even though you are just as tired as him, because that's what corners love to shout. He's tired. And I'm like, well, I'm fucking tired as well. I promise you that. And that's it. But never to show how tired you are.
Yeah.
And body language in a cage says so much about somebody. Like, I'm so fixed on somebody's eyes, on somebody's body language. That's another area that's very interesting, is studying that. I love to study body language. I study my opponent's body language. Me and Henny sit and we work that out perfectly, and seeing what exactly is this guy thinking. What is he just to study the habits, because there's a few things you can't hide. No matter how confident you may seem, there's a few things your body just doesn't sit well with your body.
Do you study using the videos of them?
Yeah, I use their videos. I use videos on humans as how humans react to certain stress situations. And I try to make the connections between former opponents. I try to make the connections between what the professionals say about what people will do in certain situations to compromise for saying something that they don't believe, and when people's really confident, when he really believes what he's saying. And that's so cool when you see that. In the first time you see your opponent and you are busy talking or in an interview, or you're facing off, and he does something that you recognize because you prepared for this. I watched video up on video, and seeing this is what people do when they don't believe themselves. And you can see this guy talking, and he's like, oh, I'm going to definitely beat this guy. I'm definitely stronger. And he'll do something, just a small twist, and you're like, ha, I knew it. Yeah. And you're like, cool. So that's an area where he's vulnerable at, because, you'll be like, yeah, I'm super fit. Like, I won't gas. There's no way. And you can see him maybe just making a small gesture with his eyes, his hands, whatever. And it may be, and Henny's always on watch. Me as well, like I'm focused on my opponent as well, but Henny is literally just on watching the hands, watching your feet, and he'll make sure to have a video, and afterwards we can sit and we can analyze perfectly. Okay, cool. When he said that, how he reacted, and when he said something that he really believes, like, are you gonna win, or no, that's a bad example, or did you prepare hard for this fight? And he'll say yes. And you can see there's no compromise. He's saying this because he really believes it.
Yeah.
And then he'll say, are you afraid of him at all? And this guy will be like, no. And you can see his just the movement, how he compensated for saying it, because he doesn't truly believe it. So he doesn't sit well with his body. And as a human mind, like, you can try and lie, but there's always going to be some sort of compensation, and you can see it. You can see it in so many guys. Like, it's the best thing in the world if you can catch somebody in that in between fights, in between rounds, in the fight. If you get that in a fight, I immediately know, I got you. The first battle is won. If you can beat somebody mentally in a fight, the physical win is just around the corner.
Yeah, because you can see it quite clearly when in every fight, both guys are saying the same thing. All these build-ups before the fights, both guys are saying, I'm going to smash his face and whatever they're saying.
Yeah.
One of them is meaning it and one of them is just faking it.
Yeah.
And especially when the guys are fighting someone like Conor McGregor, I could see from a mile away that Eddie Alvarez was shaking in his boots long before that fight. Just the way he was talking and things. But Nate Diaz, you could see he wasn't really giving a shit at all. So as a fighter, to know that and to know, okay, I've got him, I'm in his head, must be extremely powerful.
It's great to have somebody to be in someone's head I would say, I would take being in someone's head, I would take a strength disadvantage against my opponents. I would say he can be fitter and stronger than me if I can be mentally ahead of him. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I need then is toughness. And I just have to be able to give him a fight, because mentally he's not 100% sure he can do this. And that's the mental edge is so, and I promise you can see it. I mean, I guess a lot of fighters can't see it, but that's something that I focus on so hard, because the way I fight, is breaking down. Like, I put on a pace, and even myself, listen, I'm not saying like I'm putting up a pace and my opponents get tired and I don't. I'm super tired when I fight. I'm always tired, regardless if the first round or if it's 5 round or whatever, because that's the way I train as well. The only thing is, I know mentally my opponent's like, wow, this guy is just going and going and going. Like, this guy's going super hard. I can't keep up with this pace. And I can, so many times, I can see when we're walking, when that ref says, when the first round's over or second round's over, you can see this guy's walking down back to his corner, and you can see in his eyes, when you come out again, he's like, shit, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And there's no fatigue makes cowards out of all of us. That's what they say. And that's the truth. Like, you can be the toughest guy in the world, you can be the strongest guy in the world, you can be the greatest in anything. Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz, like you said, Conor was killing him that first 2 rounds and he got tired and he just couldn't. There's nothing you can do when you get tired and your body and your mind's like, oh, I'm too tired to do anything. That's the worst place you can be in. Being tired is the worst feeling in the world. Being so tired while somebody's hitting you, that's the worst. That's the worst, because like, you're not scared of anything. You know you have to defend, but you can't. It's just your body's like, nah. And so I mean, and that's also a mental challenge of it all, is getting, if fatigue is also so much mental, so much more mental than people really realize. Like, if you're tired and you feel like, okay, I need a rest, that's just your brain trying to tell you, he's trying to protect your body. That's a natural thing. Your brain is telling your body, take a rest. You are really pushing yourself, just take a rest. And don't even think that's close to what you are capable of physically. When your brain tells you that to stop, like, then that you're really tired, that's your safety mechanism. You have to override that thing. You have to be like, no, fuck you, brain. Like, I think we can do this a lot more. We can still go. We can do this anytime. I mean, I train for an hour at what intensity, and I get in a fight, and after 10 minutes you are so tired. That is 100% a mental. That's a mental. There's adrenaline, all that that plays a factor. But don't tell me your body is gonna really. You feel like dying. You're not really gonna die. It's just the way your brain is telling you. Listen, if you don't stop now, you're gonna die, and you have to get over that. You have to get over that point where you're like, well, if I die, I die. I have to push, and that's usually when something great's about to happen.
David Goggins also says that. Did you know David Goggins?
Yeah.
So he was the one saying, by the time your brain tells you it's time to stop, you've only reached about 40% of what you can put out.
That's it.
But overriding that is tough.
That's a tough thing. That's the toughest thing is, and I also said that you don't get that. That's a problem with a lot of people. To talk about it, me and you sitting here talking about it's one thing. To do it, there's only one way you can. And your brain, you're not going to one day wake up and decide that, nah, at 40%, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to give it 100%. That's not going to happen. That's not how it works. Every single day. Today I might get to 45. Tomorrow I might get to 48. The day after that I might get to 60. It's not going to happen in one training session. You're going to be like, no, I don't care about being tired. No, in the beginning you're going to give up at 30% already. You're really pushing yourself. You might get to 40. And then that's where that situation is what where your brain you train your brain to, when you're feeling tired, say no, you don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when you go, then there's going to come a time where if you really put into work and you've trained your brain at 40%, you're not even going to think about giving up already.
Yeah.
You're not even going to think about, man, I'm tired. You only start thinking about that at 60, 70%. And but to reach that level, you're not going to get it by reading. You can read all about it and know about it. Being conscious about it is the best way, because if you're not conscious about it, you can't consciously work on it. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yes.
if I'm training, when I get tired, I'm like, well, my man, this is exactly what we want. To get to that position, and then the real training starts.
Yeah.
That's when you start, and you're like, now I'm not only training physically, now I'm training mentally as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm at a stage in my session where I'm like, I need a rest. I really need a rest. Like, I can't go for one more. Like, just give me one off round. And that's when you shouldn't take off round. Because that's where the mental strength is built.
Yeah.
That's where you get that extra 1% for the next time, or the extra 2% that you're going to get to next time before you get to that situation.
Yeah.
And it's time and time again when you putting yourself in that hard situations, put yourself in a situation where you're thinking, oh, no, I give up. I want to, like, I'm out. That's exactly when you should say, no, okay. Give me one more round.
Yeah.
One more round is all you need. And you need to go for that one round. Even if you feel like dying, if you puke during the round. I've done that. I've puked in training many times.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, you give up way before you puke. Most people, how many people do you know that really, when they train hard, I'm not talking about professional athletes, I'm talking about guys training, even guys that are doing CrossFit, guys just gymming.
Yeah.
They are like, no, I'm too tired, I'm done. Way before they puke. Now, if you're really tired, you're going to puke.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. And that doesn't mean that's the end of it. That's not your 100%. That's not you've given your all. I've done Tom Jenkins Road. We run it up 8 times up and down. At 5, I puke usually by 4 or 5. That's when I puke my first time. And then I have 3 or 4 more to go.
Yeah.
And that's your body's way of saying, "Whoo." It's tough, but that is where character is built. That is where you get that mental strength of saying at 40%, nah, I'm not giving up right now. I'm going even further. And that, unfortunately, like I said, you can do all the theory. You can know exactly what to do, how to do it. But if you don't actually put yourself in the situation, you're always going to give up at 40%. You have to put yourself at 40% and then start building to 45%, building to 50%, building to 60%. And then eventually you're going to become a David Goggins. Then that's how you become somebody extraordinary. That's how you become somebody that you are looking up to right now, is by putting yourself at where your limit is and then pushing just a little bit further, just a little bit further. And that's how I believe you grow mentally as an athlete.
Well, my one of my questions was the type of person you are. You're very in tune with the mental side. A lot of athletes aren't, but you can't deny that it's a massive part of your sport and what you're doing, right? So do you think that someone is born with that type of personality that you have, that ability to go into a fight and not freeze and not run away, the drive to get beat up and beat people up for a living? Is that something that you're born with, or is that something that you've learned through training and through the way you grew up?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the hardest question to this point, is knowing the nature nurture.
Yes.
The whole argument about that. And if you ask my brother or my brothers, if you ask my father, if you ask my family, if you ask all my close friends, if you ask Henny, he's known me for a very long time, they would all say, listen, there's nothing, this couldn't be more perfect. Like, I was good. I went to study at Turks. I studied agriculture economics. It wasn't like sport was what I'm going to do. I did really good in school academically. So I'm taking a long road around this, but this happens quite often. Is people look at me and they'll see me, because I come from a comfortable background, a very comfortable background with my parents, and they've been super supportive. And without them, I wouldn't be able to do what I did. They supported my dream 100%. They paid for my studies. They paid for me to come to Pretoria before I made any money as an athlete, and I'm in a lucky position where that was possible. But people always like, yeah, well, that's lucky. Your parents could help you financially and they could support you before you were able to and sustain you until you made it to a point where I'm but that wasn't great for me. I hated that my parents had to look after me. I hated it. But that was the hand I was dealt. That's not my fault.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, I'm sorry if you are not a rich, like if you don't come from a comfortable family, it's not my fault, and it's not my fault. I do like my dad was a very hard worker. He didn't get money, and then he made his own money. He built himself. He was a farmer. His family was a farmer. He started working on the mines, and he made a great success of his companies. And I was, whoa,
That was the power, eh? That's the power issue.
damn. Jeez, our whole main switch is off. So
Okay. Wow. So there's a power issue in the building, and
Yeah.
something just happened with it. So
damn. Well.
okay, you can keep
And
going.
it's a my father never raised me as a brat. He never did. I did get anything I wanted always, but it was always at a price, and it wasn't a price of doing this. My father always taught me, oh, okay, so you want a new bicycle, cool. Get this many distinctions, this quarter, and we'll buy a new bicycle, or play for that rugby team. If you get provincial colours for rugby, I'll buy a motorcycle. And yeah, that's great, but it taught me still, yes, I could get a motorcycle, lucky me, but it didn't come at a cost, and it wouldn't be like, oh, shame you tried, let's still buy a motorcycle. That's not how it works in my family.
Yeah.
How it worked was, if I get the colors, I get the bike. If I don't, I do not get the bike. So I learned from a very young age that if you work for it and you get it, if you work for it, you achieve your goal, you are rewarded. And in today's society, especially, people are like, competing medals, all that stuff. I didn't grow up like that, not at all. My dad didn't grow me. I have 3 brothers. I'm the youngest of 3. And it was, if we did anything, my dad was like, cool, well, we have one of these. You 3 guys do pull-ups. Let's see who does the most pull-ups. The guy who does the most pull-up gets it.
Okay.
Easy as that. And that was how I was raised the whole time. We did judo since we were 5 years old. And both my brothers were SA champion multiple times in judo. I did judo for 5 years. I was too young to compete on SA championships at that stage. And then I went over to kickboxing. And it was all, and the same with rugby. We were never forced into any sport. We only did what we wanted to, but we were taught that you work for what you want. And my dad would give us such a hard, and if you do something and you do it a half-ass, no matter what it is. I dance. I did hip-hop dancing. I did ballroom dancing 5 years. I competed in ballroom dancing, me and my brother. And regardless of what we did, my dad was there supporting us, even though he didn't like it, but he wouldn't say a word. He was like, whatever you do, just... But if you went there and you half-assed it, he would give you a hiding right there, because he said, if you want to do something and you're going to do it half-ass, don't do it at all. It's fine not to do it. Yeah. But once you showed up and you're doing it, you do it to the best of your ability, and you do it like you want to do it. And like I said, with me, a lot of fighters, mostly if you look at fighters, especially boxers, all that, they come from a background where it's a hard background. People, they grew up on the streets. People grew up in harsh environments. And they rise above that and they fight.
Yes.
And they become fighters and they become successful. Like if you look at a guy like Mike Tyson, most fighters, Conor McGregor even, same thing. And people are always like, you're probably not going to make it as a fighter because you don't come, like, we know you growing up. We've always known you come from such a comfortable background. You're not a fighter in your heart. And then I'm like, that's where people are wrong, because I chose this. I didn't do it because that was my only option. I didn't choose fighting because this is the way I get food in my mouth. I didn't choose fighting because, well, I got paid for taking a backstreet fight and I need the money. That's not why I fight. I fight purely because of one reason. I got a contract to go play for the Bulls. I got a contract to free studies, everything. And I said, no, I love fighting. And but by that time, I didn't even know. I was still an amateur. I was paying to fight. I just knew I had such a love for this. I'm doing this 100% for the accomplishment and because I love it.
Yeah.
And that sets me apart, I believe. I didn't start this because I had to. Nobody else in my family did it. I did it first before everybody. My older brother is also now a professional. He's 4 years older than me. He's now a professional as well. I was a professional before he even started training. Because they just saw, they were like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
What, you are fighting people? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we did judo, we did wrestling, all that, and that was fun. But they were like, fighting people, are you insane?
Yeah.
You don't even have any training in that. And I was like, well, I've been training in the garage. I have a boxing bag, and they were like, my brothers and my dad were like, well, we're gonna come and watch and see you get your ass kicked.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I won that first fight, and after that first fight, I was 15 years old. I fought like a 30-year-old man.
That was kickboxing.
Yeah, kickboxing, and I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world ever. I didn't have a coach for the first few years. I just watched videos and trained, and that's when I was always a little bit self-conscious, and I was like, well, sorry, I got a comfortable living. It's not my fault, and I like fighting. That's not fair. It's not fair. And then I realized that puts me ahead of everybody else, because everybody feels like a lot of people are fighting because this is the only way out. This is the way to make a living by using their hands.
Yeah.
And this is all they know. They had to fight for a living. They had to fight for food. They had to fight for everything they have. I didn't have that. I'm purely doing this for the love of it and for the accomplishment. And that sets me, I believe that sets me apart from the rest.
Yeah.
Because as soon as a lot of people that had to fight for food, the people who had to fight for love, people who had to fight for anything, they just fought because that got them what they needed. As soon as they get that, that urge to win, that urge to be best, to be the best, that urge to fight is going to die down slowly but surely, because you're getting money now, you're getting food, you're living a comfortable life. I'm used to a comfortable life. This is not something that appeals to me. What appeals to me is getting uncomfortable.
Yes.
And pushing myself and proving anybody wrong that says if you grow up comfortable, you're going to live your life like that. I can join the family business and have a much easier way. I can do that if I wanted to. And that's how I know this is my sport, and that's how I know I'm an exceptional athlete, because I make that choice every single day I wake up. I work for myself. Nobody's telling me you have to go train. Nobody's telling me you have to do this. I can just, like I said, join a family business and have a great life. And well, for me, that's not sufficient. I don't want to be comfortable. I want to do this, and I haven't looked back a day in my life. I've been a professional for 7 years now, and that's what it's all about for me, is becoming the greatest fighter to ever walk the earth. And I will not rest until I get there, or until I fail at it.
The whole thing about having to make it as a fighter, coming from a tough background and things like Henry Cejudo, whose mom and dad slipped into USA and illegally and whatever. It's almost more respectable when someone makes it coming from a comfortable background, because, as you say, it's a conscious choice you've made. Yeah. And also, being comfortable with money doesn't necessarily mean you grew up comfortably. You know,
that's it.
Just knowing from my own personal experience, having older brothers plays a big role in, because they beat you up when you're small.
100%.
Especially if you're doing judo, they're always bigger than you, always stronger than you. They're always beating you on the mats. And then having a dad that's demanding. You know, he's not demanding success. He's demanding you to work for things.
He's demanding you to be the best version you can be.
Yeah. So the comfort thing makes sense if you've grown up in challenging environments, because, as you said, it's preconditioned you to be a fighter.
Yeah.
But parenting style, from my personal experience in psychology, is more important.
Yes.
The way
100%.
you've been parented. That's why a guy like Makai Ntini, who grew up in the huts in the Eastern Cape, but had parents that were very disciplined with him, he could make it as a cricketer because of his parenting style. Because they taught him that you always work for what you get. You always work for what you want. So,
and that's the important. It doesn't really matter if your parents can give you whatever you want. And that's what I try to tell people always. Sure, my parents could give me everything I wanted, but it didn't change anything in the way. Like, they didn't just give it to me at all. So regardless, if it's their money, it's not my money. I'm not rich.
Yes.
I'm not comfortable. I mean, that's their money. They can do it as they please. And the only way for me to get a piece of that, to get a piece of money, of gold, of anything that satisfies my needs, was by winning at something, achieving something to gain something. And that's the life story of our lives, isn't it? Is if I compete if I fight and I win, I get a massive fight purse. If I fight and I lose, I get half that fight purse.
Yeah.
And the next one that I fight for is going to be even smaller. So, I mean, that's directly if you're looking at it a financial point of view. But I like what you said about the parenting style, and that's one thing where I have to give all credit to my parents. They didn't allow me to feel sorry for myself ever. They didn't allow me to make excuses. If I made an excuse, they'll be like, well, I mean, what? what's that gonna help you?
Yes.
Like, I couldn't do it because I was hurt, and they were like, well, then you shouldn't have played. If you were hurt, then you shouldn't have tried.
Yes.
If you were really hurt, you wouldn't have tried. If you could run, you can do it. Like, if you can take it, you can make it. It's
Yeah.
like my parents. There was no, and even if they thought it, they knew that what they were busy with. And I have to give all the credit in the world to them, because my father just wouldn't accept anything. Then, he always taught me, if any man can do it, you can do it. If any other person can do it, and you really want to, you can do it.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. Like, we are all born equal, and we are all start from from a physical point of view, semi-equal standpoint.
Yeah.
And what we do with that is some people become brain surgeons, some people become athletes. And that's your choice. And whatever somebody tells me, well, right now I'm too old, but when I was in school and people were like, listen, if you want to be a brain surgeon, you can be a brain surgeon. That is 100% true.
Yeah.
Because if I really devoted my life to it and I really wanted to do it, like I had the love for it, like I have the love for fighting, I would have done it. Because why can somebody else do it and I can't? That makes no sense. And that's how I grew up. That's my brothers grew me up, raised me like that. My dad raised all three of us like that. And that's why we were so competitive as brothers, because we were like, nothing for us was impossible.
Yeah.
Nothing. My father made it seem like nothing in this world is out of our grasp. Nothing. And funny thing is, not me or one of my brothers are in the family business
Yeah.
at all. And we have a great relationship with my mom and dad. We see each other every weekend. We're a very close family. Not with the whole family, but my mom, dad, brothers, and wives and their kids. And the thing is, we are all doing our own thing.
Yeah.
And that just shows you, like you said, the parenting style. And then I started thinking about it as my dad didn't raise us to be used to being comfortable, and this is what we have. We all worked for our own thing. We all went our separate ways because we wanted that challenge. We were used to being challenged and achieving.
Yes.
Being challenged and achieving, being challenged, failing, not getting your reward, and then trying again and making plans and making sure that you don't fail again, or try hard, or do whatever it takes. Make a plan, do something to succeed, and then you get what you want.
Yeah.
And that's why all three of our brothers are in different directions. One brother is a lawyer. Other brother he owns a builder. He owns a few businesses, a restaurant, animal park. I'm a professional athlete. I own the gym. I have a few other businesses with the animals and all that. But we are all in such different avenues. Our main goals. It's because it doesn't matter really what you are doing. You can apply this to if you're an accountant or if you're a fighter. It's all about the mindset of going out and doing what you love, and deciding I'm going to be great at it. Deciding that I don't just want to do it. I want to do as good as I possibly can at it.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset.
It comes down to the belief systems, and what the psychology about that is that a child learns a lot of his belief systems by the age of 8. So regardless of how rich your parents are, by the time you're 8, you're not even aware of money yet.
You don't even know you are rich.
Yeah.
You don't know if you're poor or rich if you're 8 years old.
You don't know, but what you do know is, if I want something, what needs to be done for me to get this? And those are the belief systems that it seems that your dad and mom instilled in you and your brothers. So yeah, it's clear, and it actually plays into your career, the way you were saying how you're fighting not just to win, you're fighting for your performance needs to be good. You're not happy if you win, but you've done it in a boring way.
100%.
It's more about how you've performed and what you've put out there.
100%.
And that's exactly what your dad taught you, if you think about it. So
that is, like if you the way you say it like that, that's it. Like, he doesn't want me to perform. He doesn't want me to compete in a competition and then you get it. Be the best there.
Yes.
Get a gold medal and you can get it.
Yeah.
You know, it's and that's it. And I guess that's where that idea was installed, like you said, in my mind of, you can't just be here. You have to be exceptional. If you're going to do it, try and be exceptional at least.
Yes.
At least give your best to do an exceptional job at it. And if not, just leave it. Like,
find something
that's
else.
it. So find something else that you really want to be exceptional. Like, I love cricket.
Okay.
Played cricket in school. Damn, I sucked. I mean, our school only had 2 teams. I couldn't even make the second team. I had terrible eyes. I had eye surgery the other day, like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, yeah. Before that, I fought with contact lenses in.
Oh wow.
Like, I have terrible eyesight. But, I mean, cricket, I really love the game, but I sucked so much. Like, I couldn't bat. I couldn't bowl. Like, I was okay fielder, I guess, outside fielder. Like, I was just terrible in the game, and I loved it. And my dad came to me and he was like, you came to watch every game that I played, even though I was on the bench. I didn't even get a chance to bat because I was the last batsman. And he would be like, he basically came to watch me field.
Yeah.
And I mean, on the outside field in school, how many balls do you really get? And he was like, oh, my son, like, I'm glad, do you like the cricket? And I'm like, yeah, I love it. And he was like, well, go for it. It's cool. I'm glad you like it. And he's like, as long as you, whenever you try, whenever you're doing it, giving it your best,
Yeah.
go for it. If
Yeah.
not, stop playing it right now because you suck at it. He was like, I'm going to tell you straightforward, you suck at cricket. Like, I've seen, like, he was like, he sucked at cricket as well, but he was like, I was much better than you are. He was like, you are terrible at cricket. He was like, don't like it too much because you're wasting your time. You're not good at cricket.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I like it. And he was like, well, as long as you like it and as long as he didn't, liking it wasn't enough for him. He was like, as long as you want to be good at it,
Yes.
as long as you want to, you don't miss training, and you really, when you go out there and you give it your all, go for it.
Yeah.
And the same with the dancing. He hated every moment of it when I was dancing. And he was like, what's happening here? But he was there at everything, and he could see I was really pushing. I was doing it at the best of my abilities.
Yeah.
And as long as I did that, he would support it. And he
Yeah.
would be like, give it your best. And as soon as you don't feel like being the best at it, like, even if I'm not the best, I'm the worst, I'm still trying every day to, and like, today is the day I'm going to make it. Today something's going to happen and I'm going to break through and I'm going to be a great cricketer. And that is enough for him. That's what he wanted to tell me. As soon as you lose that in anything you do, change careers,
Yeah.
change what you're doing. If you don't want to be better every day at it, don't do it. And it's easy for me to say, but I can say it because that's the decision I made in my life. I said, when I said to my dad, listen, I'm not going to play rugby. Sorry, I got a contract. I got everything for it. And he was like, well, what are you going to do? He's going to pay, like, you're getting a free ride here.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't know. I'll make a plan, but I want to fight. And he's like, what are you going to do for money?
Yes.
You don't, like, you understand, like, you have to make money somewhere in your life. And I was like, I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. And here I am today. And
Yeah.
I'm a gym, and I'm doing great. I'm loving my life every single day. There's not a day that goes by that I consider any other career.
Awesome.
I love what I'm doing. And I can't imagine living my life any other way. I can't imagine doing a job that I don't like. I can't imagine. And some people are stuck in that. And that is something that I can't relate to at all because I've never done that. I've never been in a job that I don't want. I've never been in a, because from day one, when I left school, I knew what I loved. And that's the most important part, is finding something that you really love that much. I knew what I loved and I knew what I wanted to do. And I just went at it 100%, and here I am today, and living my dream and loving it. It's I can't imagine doing something that I don't like. I can't imagine how that must be and how bad that must be for your soul and your happiness as a person. I know so many people that wake up every day and they're like, today, I can just see it. Like, as soon as they get back from work, they're like, for about 2 hours, and then they have to go to sleep, and like, I have to wake up in the morning. I know where I'm going, and it's like, there's no way on earth I'll be able to do that, because that is soul crushing stuff. It's
people are praying for the weekend, and they should be praying for the week again.
That is it. I mean, for me, public holidays, for example, it doesn't make a difference to me. It doesn't make a difference to me. Public holidays, I don't train on Sundays because my work is training, so I don't work on Sundays. And that's great because that's time I'm spending with my family. I never go to sleep on a Sunday and be like, tomorrow's training again. I'm like, tomorrow's Monday again. My body's feeling fresh again because I recovered the whole day. Weekend, like, I recovered on the Sunday. I'm feeling great. Monday, I'm so excited to be back here and learning new things and trying to be like I compare this Monday to last Monday, and I mean, imagine anything like. Can you imagine? It's been like this for 7 years. It's not gonna fade.
Yes.
It would have faded by now if it's gonna
yeah.
fade. This is not a phase for me. It's not a. This is my life. This is what I love to do. It's everything I do. I think about fighting. People are like, oh, we're gonna go on this holiday. You coming with? And I'm like, well, let's see how far is it from a fight. And I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, I can go.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll be training on that because that makes me happy to train. And I mean, it doesn't take over my life. And that's one thing I changed after that loss that I said. It doesn't take over my life, but my whole life revolves around it. And I'm happy to do it that way. That's what makes me happy.
Yeah.
I'm a workaholic in that way, but I'm not a workaholic that is constantly stressed, that's constantly, having to deadlines, all that. That's not what it's about. For me, I'm doing what I love. I'm learning new stuff every day. Just being a little bit better today than I was yesterday. And I mean, so different stoke, different folks. Most people will be like, no, this is a terrible idea. I would hate that to be my life. To train 3 times a day, body being sore the whole time. I love that feeling.
Yeah.
I love it. And somebody else gets that same sensation from numbers. When they see numbers, they go crazy. They love it. And then you're in the right direction. As soon as you have to think, today. I also get days where I'm tired. I'm like, I have to go train today. I have to go train now. My body's tired. That's a completely different scenario. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not hating what I'm doing. I'm just feeling a little bit down, out, tired today.
When you get here, you still love doing it, even though you're
once
tired.
I'm here, that's now just coming here. It's like, but once I do it, I'm getting warmed up. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, I feel sad for people that don't get that opportunity to. I mean, what's half of your life is your work. To spend half of their life doing something they hate, I feel sorry for them. And it's not something. I'm not judging them and saying you made the wrong choice or get some backbone and stuff. The biggest problem that I've realized is people don't know what they love. People don't know. They don't know what's their passion. They're like, what do you like to do? Well, I like hunting. I like fishing. That's your general answer, because people aren't out there looking for what they really love.
Yeah.
When you were a child, that's other interesting thing I saw the other day. I read it. There's something in you. I read the book was the Mastery book of Robert Greene.
Yes.
The book's name's Mastery. He's the same author of 48 Laws of Power. That's an amazing book. Mastery wasn't a great book, but there was a few cool stuff I took out of it. And it came down to, with masters in their fields, there's always, since you were a little kid, as a kid, you don't know about, like you said, monetary value. You don't know about social status. You don't know about the status quo. You know nothing about all that. All you know as a kid is where you get your food from, if you love your mom and dad, and what you like to do. And most kids wants to be a policeman when they grow up, a lot of them. Other kids wants to be, when they see rugby, they want to be a rugby player. Really, that's what you want to do as a kid. And that is an unbiased opinion. That is the greatest opinion you can ever have about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a dream that should never, ever. I look at my brother's kid right now. That guy is nature crazy. Every flower he tries to pick up, and he looks at the different flowers and he knows the names. And I mean, he's 4 years old.
Yeah.
He just turned 5. Animals, he loves that. He's obsessed with all animals and on the farm and the flowers, and he wants to stop and pick flowers, and he loves all animals, any animal. He just loves animals. And if that guy has to be anything else one day, then that involves
Nature.
If it doesn't involve nature, he shouldn't be doing it.
Yes.
Because that's what he loves. Even if he's going to grow old, because that's not such a prestige career or whatever. That's not. I promise you, if he doesn't do something with nature, he's not going to be happy.
Yeah.
Because that's in his core, in his if you could say, untainted mind of what the world expects from you and what's acceptable in the world. That's what he truly loves. And I believe most people forget that dream. When you grow older and you get friends and you start thinking, this is not cool anymore.
Yes.
This isn't cool. It's not cool to like nature. It's not cool to play with animals and flowers and that stuff. That's when he's going to start fading away from that dream.
Yeah.
And I believe as parents, it's very important to recognize that in your child. If you look at a guy like Da Vinci, what he did, he was that was what he loved. Every single aspect since he was a little kid. That's what he loved. He loved birds and drawing birds. He didn't know, like, paper was scarce that time. Only thing he knew was I like to draw this stuff. He liked to really get obsessed with the movement of the birds and making the sketches and nature around him and loving all that. And since he was a little kid, and that is what he is in his being, was being an artist.
Yes.
That's what he wanted to do since he was a little kid. If he had to do something because his father wanted to be something else, to go to study, whatever it is, and he even did it, but that was never going to be his something he loves to do.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting point to think of. If I think about back when I was a child, WWE was the only thing I loved. That was the thing I loved. That was the biggest thing. Dragon Ball Z, just for it's just you trying to make that connections, is the things I love to do. Anything that gets my adrenaline going up, I love it. I'm not scared of heights. I'm not scared of anything. Going fast is my favorite activity. I like to drive fast cars. I like to drive fast bikes. I have bikes. We grew up with dirt bikes, super bikes, everything. And that's what makes me feel alive, is that adrenaline rush. And if you look at what I'm doing, there's no adrenaline rush like that.
Yeah, of course.
No matter if I'm going 300 kilometers an hour, it doesn't feel close to being when I walk out to that cage.
Yeah.
That adrenaline rush, that's what I do this for.
Yeah.
And since I was a little kid, that was what I was chasing.
Yeah.
And that comes back to the nature nurture thing. Is it nature? Is it nurture? My parents did grew me to be what I am today, but I also loved this since I was a little kid. I loved this kind of anything an exciting something that gets your adrenaline going. That's what I was going to do regardless. That's what if I had to have an office job, I would be crazy. I would go crazy.
And you can see it in the way that you talk about it. You actually become more excited when you talk about it. It's definitely your calling and your essence of your life is this type of stuff. And a lot of people, like you were saying, they get stuck in an office job because they're earning a fixed salary, so they know they're getting their cash.
Safety.
And a lot of times the thing they love might not bring in as much money, or it's a challenge to get out there and do it. So to start a new business in whatever you want to do is tough.
It's hard.
It's hard. And people are sometimes scared to take on that challenge. And you've actually mentioned now you consistently want a challenge and then to overcome that challenge and then another challenge and overcome it. And that's what fighting is, isn't it?
That's exactly what fighting is.
Yeah.
I kick this guy, now he takes me down to the floor. Now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I've been beating him in the stand-up. What am I going to do? Now he's a better wrestler. What am I going to do to get out of this?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's and that's what I also said. Like all this stuff that I'm saying, it's not only applicable to my life and to what I do. It's something you can apply to anywhere in your life. Your whole life is a fight. Your whole life is a fight. Everything we do, regardless if you're an accountant or you're a fighter, your life as an accountant is a fight as well. Every day you have to fight. What am I willing to do today to be better? What am I gonna do today to be a better father, a better husband, a better kid to your father, a better Christian if you're a Christian, a better accountant if you're an accountant, a better whatever it is. It's a fight with yourself every single day, just like the fight I have with myself. Every day I have to wake up early. Every day I'm not feeling like training today. Every day my body is hurt. We have the same problems. It's just in different environments.
Yeah. Yours is just tangible. Your fight is real.
There's an actual real fight. So you can put the symbolic in that.
Exactly.
And you just compared that whole life struggle to an actual fight. And exactly that. My job is fighting another guy.
Yes.
So I'm punching him, but he's kicking my legs. What am I going to do to overcome this? You are fighting. You are a very successful accountant, but you have a gambling problem.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You are a great lawyer, but you have problems at home. Like you and your wife aren't happy. How are you going to deal with that? It's exactly the same, different circumstances, but it's exactly the same. There's a problem. Something is going for you. Something's not going for you. It's always going to be, that's how life works.
Yeah.
Not everything's going to go for you. But how you react to that is how your life's that's going to be the story of your life.
Yeah.
If you're going to let every single thing that doesn't go wrong, like people complaining, I can't take it at all. Like, it kills me. It kills me and it kills me. And I wasn't always like that. It was a conscious decision I made because I realized that is the truth of it. That's the truth of the matter. shit's gonna happen. That's why the saying is there. Shit happens,
Yes.
and it's only about how you're gonna react to the shit that just happened. Like, oh shit. Well, I mean, there was a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic, and so many businesses are going down. And I mean, I couldn't fight. I mean, sponsorship money, all that stuff. That's a tough situation. But I mean, it happened to everybody,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Every single person.
It happened to everybody. And what's it like? Who owes me anything? Where am I going to complain? What's it going to help at all? Nobody. No, it doesn't matter. If you're complaining, you're wasting time. You're wasting you're wasting your energy on thinking about what to complain about instead of thinking about the solution. And I'm coming out of this thing better than I went in, I promise you. And financially, mentally, physically, I'm coming out of this thing better because I could work on stuff that I could never work on.
Yeah.
I had time to think about stuff, and it made me realize things about the gym. It made me realize things about my finances. It made me realize so many things that you would never have thought of if it wasn't for this pandemic.
Yeah. It was really a time of reflection for so many people. Yeah.
So many people. And if you didn't reflect in this time, if this pandemic didn't motivate you to be better, then I don't have any hope for you. If this pandemic didn't spark something in you, because I know with me, I was in there for a week and I was like pretty unsure. What is this thing all about? Like I've never been in this situation. My parents, like nobody's ever taught me how do you react to this? Nobody knew what's going on. It was a crazy time to be alive.
Yes.
My parents haven't been in a situation. For them, it's a first as well. So now we're on the same level. Usually I'm just like, hey dad, do you have some advice here? He doesn't have advice. Like we're on the same boat. Like my opinion's as good as his.
Yeah.
And my coach, my mentor, same for him. He was like, well, I'm just going to do this. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, and it's for some weird reason for me and the people that live, I immediately got 4 teammates and said, listen, you're moving into my house.
Okay.
We took half of the mats, I have a double garage, put it in there. We had everything we have right here in this gym. We had in my house. We had the teammates there. I didn't miss a day of training. I didn't miss. In fact, like I said, I came out of this thing so much better because I could work so specifically on things that if you're preparing for a fight or all that, and there's no time to work on that small stuff, I could work on things because we could just work on it the whole time, and we all lived together and we all trained together, and everybody just started motivating. Like I was super motivated because I was like, as soon as this thing's up, I want to fight, because I was on my way to fight when this thing happened, and I was just, the momentum was going and going and going, and then my other teammates started training harder and harder, and now we're just like psyching each other up as if we were training for a fight. We were in this fight camp without even knowing when it's going to end.
Yeah. And
we all got out of it. Like I was just making plans with businesses, and I was making plans with fighting, and I was training super hard, and they were like, what are you training for? And I'm like, I'm not sure. Yeah. And they were like, because you're not training like normal, you're training for a fight. And I'm like, you never know what's happening. And this thing, it lit a fire under me. It made me, like you said, reflect and be like, yes, you just need, like, that's life. Life will throw curveballs. You just have to be ready, and you have to do what you know you can. You have to take the stuff that you can control, like how hard can I train? How disciplined can I be? That's the stuff I can control. I can't control a worldwide pandemic, sorry. Yeah. I can't control how I react to it, and it is the worst thing to happen to humanity in a long time, but for me personally, it was great. Best, It was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I'm feeling refreshed after it, and I didn't take a holiday at all. I was training double as hard, but I'm feeling like can the world just come back to and see what I've been doing? I want people to see what I've been doing, and that's a great way, and that just shows you no matter what the challenge is, you can overcome it if you really want to. And complaining about anything ever is never ever option. Whenever you feel like complaining, make the conscious decision to say no. Yeah. Whenever I feel like complaining, I'm like, well, and I'm just like, well, I'll complain to myself. Like, it doesn't help. It doesn't help to complain. If you can do something about it, do something about it. Yeah. If you can't do something about it, why even bother complaining about it? Because it's not going to change anything. So as soon as I want to complain, I'm like, well, I have the power to do something about this. I'll be like, cool, I'm going to do something about it. Yeah. As soon as I think, there's nothing I can do for this, I'm like, it's not even worth mentioning, because it's out of my control. Yes. So, and that's ever since I made that decision, then you realize how many people are so stuck in their own, like, and even my parents are like that. We fight about that a lot because, especially in the older generation, they're like, I'm from a Buddha background. They like to complain about everything. They love to complain, like about anything. Like you will see a guy, like farmers, yes, they like to complain. It's never raining enough, then it's raining too much, then it's too hot, then it's too cold. There's always something to complain about.
Yeah.
And it becomes a habit. It's a habit of complaining. People don't realize, people think they are complaining about something real. They're not. People are getting in such a habit of complaining that you get those people that I say, hello, how are you? I know for a fact. I don't know what you're going to say. I just know you. I've been knowing you for years. And I know you as a person. I know you're going to complain about something right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. And it will be like, you won't believe today what happened in my car. And I'm like, oh, yes.
Typical.
It's a typical. It's like people. And it's really not because they are unhappy or any of that. It's just a habit. A habit of complaining about shit. And I made a conscious decision like, listen, I'm not going to complain about anything anymore. And I've also made this decision, and I'm doing this. Whenever somebody is complaining, and I'll be like, cool, I hear you out. And the next time I'll be like, huh. And if you start complaining about either same thing or something else, I'll be like, are you going to complain about everything the whole day?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like it. Like you're screwing with my vibe here. Like I don't like this complaining vibe. If you're going to complain, like, sure, make a Facebook post about it. Then more people will hear you. But I don't like people complaining about everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's easy to say, but just see, it is really more of a habit than it is really an urge to complain. It's a habit of complaining.
And it never gets you anywhere. It's never worked for anyone. People keep doing it.
Yeah, that's it. It's the weirdest thing.
I want to just shift gears a little bit and chat about your career. So firstly, when can people see everything that you've put into work over lockdown? When was your next time you're going to be out?
Well, I mean, right now, contact sports are allowed to start training again. So we're allowed to be back in the gym. Obviously, there's a whole lot of regulations, safety stuff that we have to take in account. But as far as me being ready, 2 weeks, that's what I need. So if they let me know next weekend it's a fight, I'm in fight shape, I'm ready, my weight's good, everything's great. So hopefully, within the, I guess you could say around August, that's it's not going to be with a crowd, so it's going to be only on TV. If the fights, this is all speculation.
Yes.
This is what we're hoping for. This is what we're anticipating. There's no actually telling when, but we hope for as soon as possible. And if that, let's say any time from August, probably there's going to be events. I want to be on the first card that the UFC puts on, because international travel right now isn't possible, and I want to stay busy. I'm healthy, I'm fit, I'm good, so I want to fight.
So with the UFC, sorry, you said EFC, yeah?
EFC, okay. Yes. So obviously I have a dispute with KSW, so and my contract ends in October.
With them?
With them. Then I'm free agent. And then from there on, then the big news, and we'll see what happens next. We'll sit down with the agents and all that, and we'll see what's the next best move, what's the next best thing. Obviously the UFC contract, all that is put on hold because of the COVID thing. Firstly, secondly, because of the whole KSW situation. I did tell KSW, listen, it's I'm done asking you for. I'm done with licking ass. I'm just like, well, I mean, cool, I did sign the contract, that's on me, cool, I did it, whatever. They are being assholes about it, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna say, listen, I didn't sign the contract, I did sign the contract, so if they want to do it this way, they can do it this way. They've ruined a good relationship, so I mean, that's not great. I had a great relationship with them, but I mean, I can fight anywhere else in the world. I can fight for any promotion other than the UFC anywhere in the world. So there's opportunities that's coming, and like I said, I'm not in a rush. I'm not like, I need to fight in the UFC, I'm going to take off a year and wait for my chance in the UFC. If I can't beat anybody in the world, I shouldn't be in the UFC.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going to take fights. I want to stay active. You know, you never know when a big injury comes and you get injured. And right now I'm not injured, and I haven't been for a long while, and that's why I want to fight. I want to, put this stuff to work and stay active. And if I should be in the UFC, I will be in the UFC. And like the contract, the offer is there. It's just a matter of time. But I'm not going to sit around the whole year and I haven't fought in a year. I just want to stay busy and stay active, and that's the best way to prepare yourself for the UFC is to stay active. So, I mean, from August, that's probably when we're going to have the first event, and I'm definitely looking to be on that card as soon as possible. The first possible card I want to be on.
So did you say there's a UFC contract on the table?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was in the States and I got an offer from the UFC. I got an offer from quite a few promotions, big ones, small ones.
Bellator and those guys.
Bellator, PFL made me a massive, massive offer financially. That was retirement money. And, unfortunately, like, you know, the big thing for me is the accomplishment. And that's one thing that KSW couldn't understand was it's not about the UFC's probably not going to pay me as much money as KSW did in the beginning of for my debut, because KSW is paying great money, but it's not about the money, it's about the accomplishment and fighting the best guys in the world. And KSW unfortunately doesn't have a governing body, so they're not testing guys for banned substances, which is super unfair because I'm getting tested all the time in the UFC, random tested because I'm the champion. And I mean, that stuff doesn't belong in professional sports, so I mean, that's not fair, firstly. Secondly, is the UFC is the biggest in the world, and if you want to call yourself the greatest of all time, you have to be the greatest in the UFC, unfortunately. So it was never anything personal. They just took it personal. It wasn't because of the money. It wasn't they did anything wrong. It wasn't anything like that. It was literally just the next step in my career.
So you would take a smaller contract with the UFC than the big PFL contract.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. The PFL offer was massive. It was great. But you know, there's going to be time for that in my career. There's always going to be time for that. There's only when you get the opportunity to fight for the UFC, I'm going to take it, and I want to make the best of it. And you know, I want to be the champion, and I want to do it as soon as possible. I want to get there, and I want to hopefully get a top 20, top 10 even opponent for my first fight. I don't want to climb that ladder for 5 years before getting a title shot, or 2 years even. I want to get that title shot within a year. I want to get there, fight a top 20 guy, fight a top 10 guy if need be. And you know, it's I've and that's why I never wanted to, like, it's not like I got the opportunity and I said no. I never wanted to go to the UFC early. I wanted to be sure. I don't want to be the guy that says, please let me in, give me one fight, please, just give me one chance. I don't want to do that, because I don't want to be a guy that just like, oh well, whatever, let him fight. There's 500 guys on the roster. We don't care. Let him fight nobody. And if he wins, great. If he doesn't, cool. I want to be somebody that they're like, we should sign that guy.
Marking.
And people are like, well, and people are like, why isn't that guy in the UFC? And that's what's happening right now. People are like, why aren't you in the UFC? You should have been there a long time ago. And I'm like, no, I should be there whenever I get there. That's the perfect time.
So in what weight class would you want to go fight? Middleweight. Is that your favorite?
That's my weight class. Welterweight won't see me again. I mean, that weight cut was horrible. That's the reason I stopped fighting at welterweight. I mean, from where I walk around at now, it's a 17 kilograms cut, 18. That's what I have to lose to fight at welterweight. And I did that all the time, and still it started on my blood test, everything. It started showing that it's busy screwing up my hormones. It's busy screwing up my system. I was starting to take off years of my career, and as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, cool. Now it's over. I did it until, and we kept a fine eye on it every 4 weeks, blood test, every 4 weeks, making sure everything is perfect. Even though I'm cutting tremendous amount of weight, we always did it very professionally, and until it started to become a problem with my health, until it started affecting my health. It wasn't a problem, just started affecting my health. I said, no more. I don't want to take years of my career. I want to fight until I'm 50.
Who helps you with your weight cut? Who's
Scott McIntosh. He's a genius. I mean, he's a genius. The stuff that he's done, like, I mean, if you look at my body, when you see me and you see me at welterweight, you're like, well, how does that happen in 8 weeks? You won't believe it. He's a genius. He's a guru when it comes to this stuff. And but I mean, it's only so much you can do until it becomes unhealthy. And middleweight, I'm feeling great. I'm great at middleweight. I'm not a small middleweight. I'm taller than the average middleweight in the UFC. I trained with top 10 ranked middleweights in the UFC. I've trained with champions in the UFC in middleweights. And you will be quite surprised to know that I'm in size bigger than all of them. Yeah, I'm a big middleweight. I'm considered a big middleweight. It's crazy to think that I was fighting welterweight. If you see me against the welterweights in UFC, like, It's crazy.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. I look at them and I was like, on TV, that's why I cut so much weight, because on TV, these guys look massive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have to cut this much weight, otherwise I'll never make it. And I saw them in person. They were like, oh, you're probably a light heavyweight. And I'm like, no, I'm a welterweight, guys. And they're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, no, you can't fight welterweight. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I promise. That's where I'm fighting. So, I mean, that's a comfort for me. That's why it's so important for me to go to the stage. It's just measuring myself, measuring what we're doing, and obviously I have a family that side, a team that I train with all the time at Henry Hoofds, and then I have great teammates there. I feel like part of the family when I'm there. It's a great relationship, and it's also great to stay on top of the ball, because the sport is so constantly changing that if you fall behind, you are behind.
Yeah.
You can't fall behind. You have to make sure that you are on world level.
Yeah.
On par. I mean, we can do great things here in South Africa and not even know what the rest of the world's doing. And when we get there, they just beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, well, I thought I was great, but actually I'm not. And that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
We are on the right track, and we are in a lot of areas ahead of the curve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, a lot of things that we do here, people over there are like, wow, where did you learn this? And I'm like, well, small gym in Pretoria, you wouldn't know it.
Yeah. And that team that you have in America, you were telling me before the recording, it's Gilbert Burns and
Yes, it's Henry Hoofd gym. So they're at Hard Knocks. It's now Sanford MMA down in Florida.
Yeah.
In Fort Lauderdale. It's an amazing team. They have Ang Sang. He's the double division champion in 1FC. They have Kamaru Usman. Even while he's been there, that's basically the All Black Zillion team that's split up into two teams. One half, Henry Hoofd is the striking coach. He's a brilliant striking coach. He was the striking coach at Black Zillions. Craig Jones, who's a Wall of Famer wrestler, All-American. He's the wrestling coach there. So, I mean, Anthony Rumble Johnson trains there.
Yeah.
Trained with him. Luke Rockhold, Kamaru Usman, Gilbert Burns, who's the Tyron Spong, World K1 champion, and Michael Johnson trains there as well. It's I mean, the names are just continue. Gilbert Burns trains there. Like it's Herbert Burns trains there. It's the amount of challenge there. It's crazy. If you look at the guys that you trained there with, Robbie Lawler trains there as well.
Okay, yeah.
Rory McDonald was training there with us now when I was there the last time. It's massive names. It's just legends in the sport. People that are right up there and training among those guys. And that's that was my big reasoning for going there in the first place when I went there 2-3 years ago for the first time. Is I have to go and test myself against these guys. I can be great here. I can be a double division champion here.
Yeah.
And be terrible and not even compete against those guys.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case at all. And every year I go there. Every time I go there, the gap's closing, and in a lot of areas, they need to close the gap pretty soon.
Yeah.
Because we are in a lot of areas doing great things.
That's good to know, though. Like, it's very cool to hear that we're not that far behind.
Nah. And I mean, and when I'm saying we're not that far behind, that's only in certain areas. Like I said, there's a lot of areas where we are even, and there's a lot of areas where they have to catch up.
Yeah. So you've sparred with Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
So what is your take on the fight coming up?
Well, I mean, it's going to be an interesting fight. Gilbert Burns, for me, is one of those guys. Michael Chandler trains there as well. They are the same caliber for me in terms of work rate and work ethic and just savages when it comes to training.
Oh, okay.
And I always, when I train, I try to be the hardest worker in the gym, always. And it's something that I always try to do. I try to outwork everybody in that gym. And when you go with these guys, I was like, wow, these guys are really going at it. They are. Gilbert and Michael Chandler, like that. They really work. Like when they train, they're not just there to train. They're not just training. They are pushing themselves every single session, and consistently. Gilbert, very consistent. Kumara, I have to say, he's a hard trainer as well. Obviously, I mean, he wouldn't be there without hard work. Not as consistent by what I've seen, but I mean, when I was there, he was a little bit injured the second time. The first time when he fought for the belt, he was consistent, but not as consistent as Gilbert, I would say. And Kumara's striking has come a far way. It's come a long way, but he's always had a little bit of striking. His striking was always not that bad. Gilbert had no striking, and his striking is tremendous right now. He's looking great. He outstruck Tyron Woodley that knocked out Robbie Lawler.
Yeah.
Gilbert is an animal. His pace is insane. Kumara is the better wrestler. Gilbert, and on the ground, Gilbert's obviously a world champion grappler, but this is MMA. And I think Gilbert's more explosive. I do think Kumara has the strength advantage, but I do think if whoever sets the pace is going to win this fight. If they're fighting at the pace of Kumara, that slow, tying it up, getting in the clinch, Kumara can win this fight. But if they're fighting if Gilbert can keep the distance, if Gilbert can make this a scramble and not a technical wrestling match, make this a scramble of hitting, taking down, scrambling on the ground, and just push the pace, he's going to beat Kumara. And if I have to put money on it, I'm putting my money on Burns. I think he's going to take the belt.
Awesome. And some of the other fights coming up this weekend, we've got Dan Hooker against Dustin.
Insane. I trained with Dan Hooker quite a few times as well. Down at Tiger Muay Thai, I trained with him and Israel Adesanya, Alexander Volkanovski. That's where their camp is. They train in New Zealand, but other half of their camp is they do a whole lot of their camp at Tiger Muay Thai. So I've trained with them a lot. And Dan Hooker is a absolute beast, and he's up and coming. Well, not up and coming, but up and coming in the ranks. And as far as title contention, top 5 goes, I'm a big fan of Dustin Poirier. But I've met him as well in person. He's a very short guy for that weight. And he hits like a truck. That's the thing. And Dan Hooker is taller than me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he's a very tall guy.
He's a very tall guy. Skinny but tall. And he has dangerous knees and he has good hands. I'm going on the underdog here and saying that Dan Hooker is going to win the fight. Awesome. I think he's going to win by a knee. He's going to catch him with a knee.
Yeah.
And then he's going to knock him out. But interesting fact, just so I read it yesterday that, Paul Felder fought Dan Hooker. They had a war. And before that, Epson Barbosa had a war with Paul Felder. And then in Paul Felder's whole career, whoever has beaten him has never won their next fight.
Oh, really?
And every single time that Paul Felder has lost, the guy that's beaten him has lost their next fight.
Yeah.
So that's
very interesting.
Take it the way you want to. Epson lost his one, and Dan Hooker just beat him. So
yeah, let's see.
That's an interesting fact.
Yeah. Look, that's a very good fight, and I think both of them
be insane.
Are brilliant. That whole weight division, though, if Dan Hooker wins, becomes very bottleneck at the top.
Yeah, if Dan Hooker wins this, that's a terrible weight division to be in right now, to be honest. If you're in that weight division, you have Dustin Poirier, Dan Hooker, you have Khabib, Conor, you have Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje. It's insane. It's insane. Yeah. That's by far the most competitive division right now in the UFC.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And then yours is also
the middleweight division is insane right now. We have Paulo Costa and Israel Adesanya. That is an insane fight. Paulo Costa is an absolute animal.
He's a bit of an animal.
I do not see. I don't know if they're testing wrong. I'm not sure. I'm not one to always say, "Oh no, that guy's definitely juicing," whatever. No, but I don't know. That's not. It's not normal. How tall he is, how big he is, how he makes 185. How does that even happen?
Yeah.
Like he's a massive dude. He's a massive dude, and I'm a fan. I'm a fanboy of his.
Is this?
Like one day will come that I have to beat his ass, but that day still quite a while ago to go, maybe a year or two.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of his. I think he's an animal.
Yeah.
I think there's holes in his game that we haven't seen yet, but there is holes to exploit. But I think he beats Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
Honestly,
really?
Does. I've trained with Israel Adesanya a few times. Once you get him on the ground. I don't like if he gets anybody on the ground that's really just knows a thing or two about the ground game, he's gonna get tapped.
Oh, is it?
But what he's doing right now, he's doing a great job of not getting taken down.
Yes. Yeah.
And that at this stage is safe haven.
Yeah.
Until he gets somebody that can take him down.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with not being able to fight on the ground is you eventually are going to get taken down.
Yeah.
And I 100% believe he's working on it, and I've seen a lot of improvement on it when you see it in the fights. But I think when it just comes to, he doesn't have that punch power. He has crazy accuracy, and he's a super tall. He's 10 centimeters taller than me. He's a very tall. He's 195.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's a very tall middleweight.
Very young.
But Paulo Costa. That guy hits like a truck. So I honestly believe if they fight, I think Paulo Costa knocks him out.
That would be a great fight.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I can't wait.
Watch.
I think they want to make that for end of August.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. But that's the fight I can't wait for.
Yeah.
That's probably the fight that I'm most excited for in the UFC right now.
And if you could choose your opponent coming into the UFC, who would you choose?
I don't have a specific name. I've been studying the whole top 20 guys. There's an Eric Anders guy. I would like to fight him. There's Ian Heinisch. I would like to fight him. He's ranked number 13, I think. Ian Heinisch. Yeah, I would like to fight him. And of course, if it is ever a possibility, there wouldn't be a better fight for me to debut against than Anderson Silva.
Oh,
I
wow.
think, he's been my hero forever. Like, he's the guy that I first followed. He was, still is. For me, he's the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Not John Jones. I think Anderson Silva, for the time, he was so far ahead of his time and he was doing great things. And look at him, he's 45 years old and look at him still taking on.
Yeah.
He's not losing against bums and he's not getting knocked out by them.
No.
The champion right now who finished so many people couldn't finish Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
He couldn't finish him. And Anderson Silva is 44 years old. And still fighting and still wanting to fight and still fighting the best in the world. He's not fighting bums. He's fighting the best in the world. He's the greatest of all time. And for me, I do believe I will beat him. And that will be a great first fight. Ever since he dropped a little in the rankings, I think he's ranked number 15 or number 14 right now.
Yeah.
So that's a fight that I would love for a debut. But
also symbolic though, not just
symbolic. Just like it's almost the passing of the god.
Yes.
If you will. And that will mean the world to me. And like I said, I don't want to start climbing the ranks from the bottom. My first fight, I want to do something extraordinary. I want to take a 1 week notice fight if need be against a top 5 opponent, for example. That's something that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in the in the normal route of going Dana White Contender Series, fighting in the bottom, starting up, taking 10 fights before you get to the top 5. I'm not interested in that.
I want to do the Conor McGregor.
I want to do something insane. And even Conor McGregor, he started at the bottom. He did rise very quickly, 2 years until he became massive. But he started at the bottom and he fought a nobody and he went up, and then he became massive. I want to do it differently. I want to do the Justin Gaethje way.
Oh yes.
First event, main event against Johnson.
Yeah.
Wins that fight. Then Dustin Poirier. Then Eddie Alvarez. Then that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to start off at the top.
And stay there.
I want to start off in the top 20 and work to that belt. I want to start at number 100 and fight somebody that's nobody and win that. If you lose against the number 5 ranked guy, that's one thing. It's always a risk of losing. It's regardless against who. It's never great, but picking up a loss when you're fighting a number 90 ranked guy, that puts you in a dustbin almost, if you will.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested in that. I think a guy that's a number 5 ranked guy has just as good a chance of beating me as a number 100 ranked guy.
Yeah. That's what makes fighting so unique, I think.
There's always a chance.
Yeah. And then if you had to fight EFC, if they put up an event in August, you said you'd do it at light heavyweight.
I want to fight Gideon Drotsky for the light heavyweight interim title. That's what I want to fight.
And how possible do you think that is?
I think we're at 90%.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We just need him to sign a contract and then we are golden.
Yeah. Well, that would be...
Well, he said he'll do it. We had a live podcast with Graham. Or we had a live interview with Graham and... on Instagram Live, and they pitched this idea to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll fight him." And I was like, "Well, there we go." Then we
said
don't
it.
need anymore.
Said
He
it live.
Yeah, signed the paper. So, let's hope we can get that to happen.
Yeah. Who's your manager?
My manager. I do my own negotiations.
Okay.
Yeah, but as far as abroad, I'm signed with Ruby Agency, Daniel Rubenstein, and his agency. They got me into talks with the UFC. They have Peter Yan, they have Roxanne Modafferi, they have Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Oh, nice.
They have quite a few big names that are signed under them, and that's what you're looking for. Everybody's always like, "Oh, I can get you into the UFC," and I'm like, "Well, who do you have in the UFC?" And nobody yet. Nah.
Yeah.
That's a problem right now. And that's my management team right now. So I signed with them and I haven't looked back. No empty promises No, as far as the EFC goes, I mean, we have a great relationship. I've been working with them my whole career. So whenever I need to discuss something, I phone Graham directly, or we set up a meeting, and I just handle that stuff myself because, I mean, it is a business, but I mean, there's also a big form of respect for and loyalty for me towards the UFC. They built my career, and they've always been loyal to me, and I've been to them. And I absolutely hated this, especially when people start bad mouthing the UFC, and they're like, "Oh, the UFC don't pay enough. The UFC doing this." And I'm like, "Do you know how hard it is to do that? That's why nobody has ever been successful in making a professional fight promotion in South Africa, because it's so hard. It's hard. You have to have a lot of money. There's a lot of money that goes into it. And if you look at production value and stuff from EFC against you, they are better than most organizations in the world. I would compare them to the UFC if you look at production and TV value and all that. I mean, they've been great to me. It's obviously we have our fights, we have our disputes. That's always going to happen. But as far as what they've done for MMA in South Africa and in Africa, it's unmatched, and we can only be grateful that they gave us the stage that we have, because without them, no matter how much they sucked you, no matter how much you have to say about them, without them, you wouldn't have been able to perform on the world. They were like, no, we'll fight somewhere else in the world. I'm like, well, I fight in KSW. Do you think I would have gotten a KSW shot at the third biggest organization in the world, the biggest one in Europe, if I wasn't champion in the UFC? No. Where would I have fought? What would I have done? No, you can't just go directly there. You have to have a platform to fight on. And it's easy for us because it's at home. We can fight here. You don't have to travel, and I mean, if I didn't get paid by the UFC, if I had to fight, let's say my first fight was in Bama, for example, I had to travel there. And how would I do that without knowing how good you are, without knowing the money you need to do that? That would have been impossible. It would have been impossible. Without the UFC, everybody that takes them for granted is an idiot, in my opinion, because if you are Don Match, wouldn't have gone into the UFC without the UFC. Ruan Pot, same thing. Soldier Boy, same thing. Me, same thing. Without the UFC, I wouldn't have been a professional fighter. There was no way for me I would have done that. I wouldn't have done it. That was what inspired me. I walked into the UFC the first time when I was 16 years old, UFC 10, and I walked in. I was like, I'm gonna do this one day. This is what I'm gonna do. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. That was the first event I ever saw. I haven't even watched it on TV. It was the first event. One of my friends got tickets, and I went to with them. And I mean, they are just, it's an amazing, for considering the resources they have, they are doing an amazing job.
Straight from the mouth of the 228 champion, huh?
Yeah.
So no one can doubt it now. EFC are doing a great job.
They are doing well. They're doing it a better job than anybody else that thinks they're going to do it. Doing.
If you go to the UFC, would you have to give up your belt?
Yes.
Is it? So then,
if I sign with the UFC, it's 100% exclusive.
Yeah.
So no more fighting UFC or any of that. But I mean, that's why it's so important for me to try and get the. It's a little bit of a sad day for me if I have to leave the UFC. And that's why I've always stuck around. Even though I had much bigger fights, much bigger contracts everywhere else, I would always come back and fight for UFC, even though it didn't really add to my career. Like facing Brendan Lazar, for example, that fight didn't add to my career at all. But it was I don't call it a courtesy at all. None of that. It's such a pleasure for me to fight in front of these fans in South Africa, because the amount of support that I've been getting from local fans, international fans, all that, no matter where I went, from the EFC themselves, showing my fight in another organization live at an event means the world to me. And that's why they have my utmost loyalties, because they are loyal to me, and they were not just like, oh, you want to sign somewhere else and screw off. No, they weren't like that. They were supporting me and getting behind me and getting their fans behind another promotion. That is something that, it's swallowing your ego and backing one of your boys. That says a lot about them as an organization, how they feel about me and how they support me. And the only thing I can do is try and give back to them. And at the end of the day, we're all in this for one thing, and that's because we love the sport of MMA. And if anything, if you do it for anything, at least do it for that. And like I want to see the sport become the biggest sport in the world, and I'll do a lot of things to make sure that happens. I will never do anything to hurt the sport.
Look, it's also good for the UFC if you go to someone like you get signed, let's say at the UFC, they're definitely going to start having an interest. Where does this guy come from?
100%.
Two-way champion in the EFC. You're starting to broaden your
Then
audience.
you are starting to be considered as a talent, because that's basically what every organization other than the UFC is. They are just
feeders
for the UFC. So if you look at guys like Titan FC in America, LFA, those guys are main feeders. That's where World Series are fighting. All those guys, they are main feeders for the UFC. The UFC, guys go. If you're a champion there, you're about to get signed. And I've been there. I've been watching shows. I got fight offers there for way less money than I get in the UFC. Fighting for belts there. And the events are terrible. Yeah, you get it. Like the quality is like amateur events here.
Yeah,
it's terrible. But that's a feeding ground.
Yeah,
that's why. Like if you go watch other pro series, there's hundreds of promotions in America. Hundreds.
Yeah,
like EFC. Well, not like EFC. Just like. If you consider them a feeder for the UFC. Yes. But if you look at those shows live, you're like, what? It's like somewhere in a town hall.
Oh,
really? It's terrible. With 300 people maybe. Yeah. The production is small cage. There's the TV. It's ridiculous. You can't believe it. You won't consider it a professional. It's like an amateur event in South Africa.
Yeah.
And then you start realizing, wow, fighting for the UFC is a privilege. It's like really professional. They are really professional in the way they conduct business, and they are really, really professional. So,
that's awesome to hear, man.
So it's, and for them to become, if you can start becoming a main feeder for the UFC, that's what you want, because then your fighters get signed. Then you get showed on UFC Fight Pass. You get all that and bigger sponsors, all that stuff. So I mean, for me, it's almost a responsibility when I go fight. When I fought our first fight in KSW, I was like, this is my responsibility. This is the biggest fight that any South African has ever had. Yes, there's been a South African in the UFC. But fighting for the third biggest promotion in the world for a title, that's the biggest thing to ever happen to South African MMA. Nobody has achieved that.
Yeah,
fighting in the UFC, fighting is one thing. You're not a champion. To be a champion in KSW was such a big moment for South African MMA that I felt that pressure. I was like, this is the first major promotion I'm fighting. Any South African is fighting for, other than the three guys that went to the UFC. We had one win in the UFC then.
Yeah,
and I was like, I have the opportunity here to become a champion in the biggest organization in Europe.
Yeah,
and that showed how far South African MMA has come in such a short period of time. If you see how young it is in this country, it's unbelievable to even think that we have guys competing in the UFC right now.
Yeah,
to even think we have guys competing there, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And there's so much talent in Africa, isn't there?
There's crazy amount of talent. It's just the resources is not always there.
Yeah.
That's the time right now.
Yeah, I was about to ask you. It's quite...
Yeah. Well...
So I normally end this off with 3 questions I ask all my guests.
All right.
So I guess we can go into there because obviously you still got to train and things today.
Yeah.
So the first one is, what are some of the mental processes you apply to your life on a daily basis? Maybe something like meditation, prayer, even if it's breath work or anything like that.
So prayer definitely, but that's each to his own. And I mean, I don't think your religion will play a role in that. I think it's a personal preference. For me, meditation is a big thing. I don't normally do meditate as often as I would like to. When I'm out of camp, but as soon as I started going into camp and I'm focused, and that just helps me to relax both and get in a focused mind. And your meditation doesn't have to be an hour session of, I mean, you need 10 minutes in the morning. Yeah. You need 10 minutes between sessions just to get your everything right and just and that goes along with breathing exercises. I got a few breathing exercises from Wim Hof.
Yeah.
Great breathing exercises. It makes the world's difference. I mean, I couldn't keep my breath up for not even a minute, and I mean the other day I did it for 3.5 minutes at a time
using Wim Hof.
Using that the system, the exercise that I got from him, and it makes a massive difference. So I mean, meditation, all that stuff that mostly feels to people, like especially if you to the older generation, they're like, what? No, that makes no sense.
Yeah,
it really helps. It really is. It's massive. That's what sets you apart.
Yeah.
That can
It
make
is,
a
yeah.
massive difference. And even yoga, I love it. Love yoga. It's a very, and yeah, just mindfulness training. Doing autogenic training is something I do. Visualization.
Okay.
I do that every single day.
Yeah.
Visualization. Just spending. I mean, sometimes closer to a fight, I can spend a half an hour on it. And other times it's just visualizing. Firstly, what you want, where you want to be, and then visualizing is so powerful in the sense of visualizing yourself in a fight scenario is so important, because you actually get into a cage 2 maybe 3 times a year. So how you can't really get used to that feeling.
Yes.
But if you can visualize it and train your mind, that autogenic training, and do that training, and you can almost, I can get my heart rate up to 140 and still be lying in my bed, just by the way you can get yourself into that zone. And I believe that's a very big part of getting relaxed.
Yeah.
When you go, is that the autogenic training of visualization and getting your body and getting your mind to influence your physical. It's to get that cognitive function between mind and body. That's great, to get your legs to relax, get your legs to get warmer, get your body temperature up, get your heart rate up and down with your mind. Just working at it. It sounds ridiculous, but
No.
the more you do it, the easier it gets. And even if I after a fight, I'll be relaxed and I won't do it for a while, like for maybe 4 weeks I won't do it. And if you try it again, it's a lot harder. Then like you don't get it for like a week or two. You don't get it at all.
Yeah.
And then you start getting that your mind, your body becomes more connected. And it takes a while. Like that's stuff that I love to do, especially when I'm in fight camp, just to stay focused. Your body does hurt, and that makes a difference. It makes all the difference in the world.
If you I mean, you say visualization. I like to use the word imagery, because imagery creates a bigger picture than visualizing is just the one sense. So just your sight, where imagery is what you can hear, what you can feel, everything. If I could get one thing into schools, it would be to teach kids to do that, because it's probably 100%. The most powerful mental thing you can do. Yeah,
we started working on it about 2-3 years ago already. And then we started it, and I was like, "What? That's not gonna help." And you can't believe the effect that it has, visualizing. And then I started doing, not for fights, but visualizing before training.
Yeah,
like just what you want to do, like you said, imagery. Just seeing yourself being in the session, just seeing yourself, what's the problems you experience every single time you sparring.
Yeah,
and then visualizing this move, you're landing this move, you're landing this move, you're landing this move, and not just throwing it out of throwing it, but really deciding beforehand, I'm going to do this. And you see it play out, and it's almost like your percentage increases by 20%.
Yeah.
If you just see this happening before, and you see it over and over again. And in fights, visualizing, imaging, whatever you want to call it, just the different scenarios. There's 100,000, there's millions of scenarios that can happen. This guy can come out with a flying head kick. This guy can come out and pull guard. This guy can do anything. But the more you visualize it, the less you'll be shocked. You won't be surprised when you get in there.
Yeah.
Because you've seen this before.
It's familiar.
And that's the thing with what I do. Whenever I fight, in the past 3 years, I haven't been surprised by one thing in a fight.
Yeah.
Because everything I've seen this, I was like, oh, okay, cool. He did do that. And I've seen this before, even though I didn't feel it, I did see it. And that's the one thing in fighting. Like, your body can take it. It's the mind that your mind shouldn't be shocked about anything.
Yeah.
Because that's when you start thinking about not what you should be thinking about.
Yeah. What are 3 books that you'd recommend to people that you've read?
48 Laws of Power is probably one of the greatest books I've ever read. I love that book. That's one. 12 Rules of Life is a little bit... It's a cool book to read. Jordan Peterson,
yeah.
It's a great book, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. Then The Art of War is a great book to read.
Yeah. And
you can apply that to anything. It's a very, very good book. I loved it. And then definitely, my favorite book, I would say, is Stealing Fire. Stealing Fire. It's all about the flow states, and it comes basically to Icarus flying from and it uses the mythologies, and it uses but it comes down to it's basically an advanced science on the mental aspect of life and sports and everything, and how some people get in that flow state. And that flow state, I spoke about it earlier as well, it's like when you get it when you study. You get it when you are busy with, let's say, you're cooking food or whatever. And you get into that state where you're not even thinking about it. You're just doing it. And everything things come naturally. When you start studying, it's always like, you start and then you think about something else. And then there comes that stage where you start studying, and when you look up at the 3 hours just went by and you just had the most productive study 3 hours ever. And you're like, how did I do that again?
Yeah.
And that's that flow state. When you fight, sometimes it feels like you're just not getting, something's going your way. And that's when you're overthinking it.
Yeah. Then you're not in the flow state.
You're not in that flow state. The flow state is, that's what I was talking about. Like, the fight starts when the first shot goes, you're just fighting. And before you get it, the bell goes, the first round's over, and you're like, what? You don't even know what just happened. It feels like 30 seconds just went by.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'm tired. But you didn't even think about breathing. You didn't even think about being tired. You just fought. And that's that flow state. When everything, you just do what you train. And there's no thinking process behind it. You're just going.
It's like automation zone.
And that's where when I read that book, I read that book as a recommendation because we started with the autogenic training and the visualization and stuff, and all of that contributes to the flow state.
Is that Stephen Kotler's book?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's the Rise of the Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one, and then the second one was Stealing Fire.
He's the mecca on flow state.
Yeah.
That's his whole life's work.
Yeah, that's him and another guy. I can't remember his name right now. But Stealing Fire is an amazing book.
Yeah. If you could give one piece of advice to a young guy listening to this.
Piece of advice to a young guy. If you love it, go for it, man.
Awesome.
Young guys, if you love it, go for it.
Short and sweet.
That's it.
Last one. What are the 5 most important things in your life right now?
5 most important things in my life is my career, my family, my future, I guess you can count that, my gym, and I'm going to have to go with my dogs.
Of course.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Listen, thanks so much. Just tell people where they can reach you on Instagram and things.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. It was such a great talk. It was really great. Reach me at Dricus du Plessis on Instagram. Dricus du Plessis is my Facebook fan page, and also at Dricus du Plessis on Twitter. But Facebook, it's just Dricus du Plessis. That's the fan page, and at Dricus du Plessis on Instagram. Hit me up if you have any questions, anything you want to hear, any advice, live training, anything that you think I can help you with. Hit me up. I have no problem.
Cool. Dricus,
Awesome.
Thanks so much, man. You're quite an inspiration. Your head's screwed on right. I think mentally you're very aware of what you're doing. And I think that's a bigger inspiration than your achievements for young people is to see someone like you so level-headed. So thanks so much for your time and for giving us some of your insights, and hope to see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Cool.